Chapter 1029. Since you don't know, then die. Yu Lingxue roared furiously and kicked Lan Chang'e far away. Lan Chang'e was torn into pieces in midair and blood rained down on the ground. He yelled furiously, "Everyone who is here today will have a share. If you can't hand over my disciple, don't even think about living. Don't even think about living." Once this sentence came out, the faces of the Xiao clan, Shi clan, and Li clan turned ashen. Damn it, they were really cheated this time. Everyone now knew that tonight's matter was completely a huge misunderstanding. In other words, they had been ruthlessly schemed against. Tonight, there was no such thing as divine clan elder. It was completely the Lan clan who kidnapped Yu Lingxue's disciple and framed the Yi clan. They just wanted to reduce one opponent. However, he and the others had stepped into this place in a daze. In the current situation, it was completely impossible for them to retreat. Yu Lingxue was obviously half crazy now. Who dared to move? When they thought about how their own clans had not only created a huge enmity but also paid the price of the lives of dozens of experts for such a shameful matter that had nothing to do with them, they couldn't help but want to cry but have no tears. What was this? Foam Yuro's light figure had already circled around peaceful Jade Lake like lightning. She came back and shook her head heavily. No. Yu Lingxue's face was gloomy. He only felt that his chest was about to explode. For more than 10,000 years, when had he and his wife ever suffered such humiliation? They were actually played in the palm of someone's hand, and the person who deceived them, framed them, and even wanted to continue using them was actually the Lan clan that both of them thought had a good relationship with them. This was a huge blow to the Moonbreeze couple. It was simply unimaginable. Their beloved disciple was missing. Not knowing her whereabouts made both of them even more furious. Bang 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 bang. A series of muffled sounds rang out. Yu Lingxue had already flown back. In this muffled sound, each of the great clans had already lost one person. Each clan lost an 8th grade martial saint expert. The smell of blood filled the air. Everyone's face was filled with fear as they looked at Yu Lingxue in shock. This one of the 5 great clans that couldn't be provoked had obviously gone berserk. He actually started a massacre just like that. Yu Lingxue's face was gloomy. Standing in the middle of the field, he looked at them one by one with murderous eyes. He said coldly, "I don't care if you are innocent or not. Since you are here today, your purpose is clear. You're just making use of my disciple to force me and my wife. That's all." Yu Lingxue said cruelly, "You and I have never accepted any threats for more than 10,000 years. From now on, for every 3 breaths of time, as long as my disciple doesn't appear, then SSSS until all T. Until all T. I. Over SSS TTTTTSTS for 10S TTSSS, question mark. Of you. Him T. Every time he said a sentence, his tone would become heavier. In the end, his voice and expression were stern. His voice was like thunder, and his words were like lightning that flashed across the sky. A supreme martial artist from the Xiao clan said bravely, "Master Yu, we really didn't know about this. It's a misunderstanding. We were here to." Yu Lingxue didn't care. He raised 3 fingers and said, 3 breaths time starts now. As long as my disciple appears, I will only pursue the culprit. If he doesn't, don't blame me for being merciless." He looked up at the sky and roared, "1." He bent 1 finger. There was a commotion in the crowd. Someone couldn't help but shout, "Who took Wu Xian away? It's better to hand him over quickly. Don't tell me you want everyone to die together." Once this person shouted, everyone agreed with him. At this moment, everyone didn't blame Yu Lingxue that much. If they were Yu Lingxue, they would probably explode even more fiercely than now. Not only was he deceived by someone he trusted, the only brother he was satisfied with was also missing. Who wouldn't be angry? Everyone started cursing. Who was so wicked? It's fine if you want to die, but why did you have to drag us down? 2. Yu Lingxue roared angrily again and bent another finger. "Master Yu." An elder from the Xiao clan said anxiously, "Master Yu, you said 3 breaths time. How can 1 breath's time pass so quickly? Master Yu, you're counting too fast." Yu Lingxue said coldly, I'm talking about 3 breaths time for ordinary people. Am I talking about 3 breaths time for supreme martial artists? Then wouldn't I have to wait here with you for 3 months? Where would I get so much free time? Everyone was speechless. So you're talking about 3 breaths time for ordinary people. Supreme martial artists actually calculated time like this. I haven't killed for a long time. Looks like this world has forgotten me. Yu Lingxue laughed loudly and roared, 3. Do it. Feng Yuro responded. Wait. A supreme martial artist from the Shi clan shouted, Master Yu. The Dharma Supreme is right here. Will Master Yu leave some face for the Dharma Supreme? Yu Lingxue smiled coldly. Even if the Dharma Supreme is riding on your head now, I'll still kill whoever I want today. Dharma Supreme? Why should I give him face? If others don't give me face, why should others give me face? Kill. Yu Lingxue ordered with hatred. Feng Yuro flew up lightly. Suddenly, thousands of rays of sword light shot out from her hand, surging forward like a river. The supreme martial artist who asked to give face to the Dharma Supreme was the first to be killed by Feng Yuro. His whole body was minced into meat paste. Then, the other 8 clans also lost a martial saint each. Since you want face, I'll give you face. I'll let you die first. The atmosphere became even heavier. 1. Yu Lingxue raised his right hand and raised 3 fingers again. A cruel smile hung on the corner of his mouth. Everyone was in an uproar. Some people had already started cursing in grief and indignation. Who abducted Wu Xian? Fuck your ancestors. A real man should take responsibility for his actions. How can you not dare to take responsibility for your actions? How can you just let others die for you here? Bastards without assholes. Bastards. Bastards. Hurry up and send Wu Xian out. Hurry up and come out. What's the use of capturing Wu Xian? Master Yu will never accept threats. This bastard deserves to be hacked into pieces. Everyone. The people from the Zhuge clan were the most wronged. They were here to maintain order and to stop the fight. They were here to mediate, but they were pulled in unreasonably by Yu Lingxue, who then swiftly dealt them a fatal blow. There was no need to talk about this injustice. The crowd was in an uproar. Although they didn't dare to move, everyone's mouths weren't idle. One by one, they cursed and swore endlessly. 2. The murderous look on Yu Lingxue's face became more and more intense. Hold on. A voice called out. Soon after, a few figures arrived with a whoosh. Acquaintances. Yi Di, Xiaose, Shi Jing. Li Xiangxi, Ling Fengyun. Chen Mengkai, Qing Chou. The 7 of them stood in front of his clan at the same time. A bitter smile appeared on Yi Di's face. Master Yu, please calm down and calm down. Let's sort this out later, how about it? Master Yu, please give us some time on account of our clan. Yu Lingxue snorted and put down his hand. Yi Di, since you brought out your ancestors, I'll give you a chance. However, you have to understand one thing. That disciple of mine is a girl. You should know what girls are most afraid of. Yi Di hurriedly said, I know. Senior, don't worry. Murderous intent flashed across Yu Lingxue's eyes. If anything happens to you because of this period of time, I'll slaughter your Yi clan. Do you understand? Yi Di's eyes flashed with anger. He said, thank you for your time. You only have the time of an incense stick. Yu Lingxue put his hands behind his back and said, after 5 minutes, I want to see the result. If there's no result, there's no need for 3 breaths. Everyone here will be killed without mercy. After that, he walked out of the circle with Feng Yuro. When they were about 7 to 8 feet away, they paid attention to this side. Yi Di and the rest heaved a sigh of relief. They hurriedly gathered their own people and quickly discussed and understood the situation. But when these second patriarchs saw their own clansmen dead or wounded, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Their hearts ached. These people were the elites of their respective clans. Now, so many of them died here. Now that the Tribulation Sword Master was about to kill his way to the upper 3 heavens, losing such strength was simply an unexpected disaster. Especially Xiao Se and Yi Di of the Xiao clan. After hearing their subordinate's description, both of them looked up and glanced at each other. This glance was full of meaning. Xiao Se, your people killed my great-grandson. This is the rising star that our clan nurtured. Yi Di, your people also killed my great-grandson. This is the hope of the younger generation that our clan nurtured. However, it's obviously unwise to settle this score now. Following which, everyone quickly summarized the situation. After this summary, Xiao Se, Shi Jing, Ling Fengyun, Li Xiangxi, Chen Mengkai and Qing Chou almost fainted on the spot. If they really fought over the matter of the Saint race's elders, then it would be excusable. However, the problem was not that. They had been fooled. There was no news at all. They didn't know what the wrong medicine was in their own clans. They actually fought for no reason. Until now, each of the 8 superclans had enmity with the other 7 clans. Besides offending Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro, they didn't gain anything other than anger. Even the reason was a joke. In the end, after a round of discussion, everyone came up with a path and a person's name. At this moment, it really entered the ears of these experts. Chu Yang. Chapter 1030. Chu Yang. The news of Yi Shifeng, Meng Se, Xiao Clan, Ling Clan, and Shi Clan were all obtained from Chu Yang. And Chu Yang had been in close contact with the Lan clan during this period of time. He drank with the third son of the Lan clan, Lan Changa, every day. As a result, this led to today's incident. Who was Chu Yang? This name suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Although the upper 3 heavens was big, everyone was well informed. They were all influential figures. So, everyone knew in their hearts that when this Chu guy suddenly popped out of nowhere, when this question was raised, everyone was confused. Who was he? How could he cause such heavy casualties among the big clans? Facing Yi Di's confused gaze, Yi Shiyu thought for a while and finally gave the 7th answer. Chu Yang. I met him during the battle at the Lake of Despair in the upper 3 heavens. He's a very capable and talented rising star. He has nothing and fights with his bare hands, but he can make all the big clans in the upper 3 heavens follow his lead. He is very loyal and affectionate. Furthermore, he is very straightforward and likable. Yi Shiyu's description was full of praises for Chu Yang. This made the other members of the Yi family very confused, and they were also very surprised. This made Yi Di's eyes flash as he listened to him. However, this person is also ruthless. Sometimes, he will do anything to achieve his goals. All in all, if we were to evaluate this person, it would be that he is neither a good nor a bad person. He has his own principles and bottom line. It would be very blissful to be friends with such a person, but to be enemies with such a person, it would be very troublesome. Yi Shiyu smiled bitterly. In the upper 3 heavens, I did not take him seriously. But after coming to the upper 3 heavens, especially after coming to Tianji City, I realized that this person is not simple. For so many years, I have been teasing others. He is the only one who can disgust me. Yi Shiyu said the 7th part. Even in such a heavy atmosphere, people couldn't help but want to laugh. From the upper 3 heavens? And to be able to create such a huge storm? Then this young man is not simple. Yi Di pondered and suddenly said, this Chu Yang. Could it be the Tribulation Sword Master? Yi Shiyu frowned and pondered for a while before saying, I don't think so. According to my investigation, he had already entered the upper 3 heavens when Tribulation Sword Master caused the phenomenon in the sky. Yi Di replied with an O and said, capture this Chu Yang when you have time. Let me see. The same question was repeated in the other big families, and the answers were mixed. Meng Se said, I was the one who went to look for Chu Yang. He was in the Orchard Palace. Although Dream Se knew that he had been tricked, he had nothing to say about it. The other families also said the same thing. Who would dare to lie to the old ancestor? Naturally, he repeated what Chu Yang had told him. Hearing this, all the ancestors frowned deeply. Qing Chou said angrily, if that's the case, you can't blame him. What he said was, the Lan clan will definitely make a move tonight. And you, who went to scout for information, didn't even ask what kind of operation it was. Why did you fall in head first? Everyone looked ashamed. They felt so ashamed that they couldn't show their faces. Yes, the Lan family would take action. Why did the Lan family take action? Why did they come? Wasn't it because of that elder of the divine clan? Therefore, everyone naturally thought that the Lan family must have initiated such an operation to snatch the elder of the divine clan. Naturally, everyone followed suit. Who would have thought that this operation wasn't that operation? At such a critical juncture, the Lan family actually came up with such an operation. Therefore, everyone followed suit. Therefore, everyone fell into the trap together. Everyone died together. Everyone felt aggrieved together. Everyone was wronged together. This meant that they couldn't take revenge even though they had been tricked. At the very least, they couldn't take revenge openly. Because what the other party said was the truth. It was just that they had misunderstood. This was a misconception in their thinking. And Chu Yang. He had made use of the preconceived notions of the big families. He had artificially created a misconception in their thinking and made them unable to say anything. Yes, you came to me to ask about the Lan family's operation, and what I gave you was indeed the news of the Lan family's operation. And the Lan family had indeed taken action within the time period that I mentioned. What are you blaming me for? If this matter itself was a conspiracy by the Lan family against the big families, then so be it. Chu Yang could still be considered an accomplice. But the Lan family was only targeting the Yi family, and the current situation was that the Lan family had gone for wool and come home shorn. They were the family that had suffered the most losses. Accomplice. That was even more out of the question. This discovery made the second grandmasters of the big families even more aggrieved and gloomy. Damn it, how could there be such a thing? Shi Jing, who was a little hot-tempered, couldn't help but curse. You bought real news with real money, but you were really tricked. Spending money to buy your own willingness to be tricked, you guys are really something. The second grandmasters who finally knew the truth of the matter looked at each other, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. It would be fine if only one family said so, but it just so happened that all the big families said so. For a moment, there was a doubt. Did Chu Yang deliberately set up a trap? Or did he not know at all? Everyone discussed for a while and felt that the possibility of it being a trap was close to success, but the possibility of him not knowing was only 40%. No matter what, he couldn't escape. Chu Yang. At this moment, this name was engraved in the minds of all the powerful people. Taking revenge in the open would only make people think that this big family was petty. It was an open deal, but after suffering a loss, they actually wanted to take revenge. It was simply unreasonable. But in the dark, Chu Yang was probably in a lot of trouble. On the other side, Yu Lingxue said impatiently, "Have you all finished discussing? I want my disciple now." Yi Di and the rest hurriedly asked about Wu Chanxian, and the more they heard, the more they felt troubled. What exactly was going on? Why was it getting more and more confusing? Quickly go and find her, the few grandmasters ordered at the same time. Time passed bit by bit, and the people kept coming back, bringing back the same answer, nothing. Yu Lingxue's brows were tightly knitted, and the murderous look in his eyes became more and more intense. Finally, he let out a long roar. Enough. Are you all done acting? Do you really want to force me to go on a killing spree? At this moment, a faint voice said, "Brother Yu, you can't say things like going on a killing spree so casually." The voice was very indifferent. But it was full of supreme majesty. There was a burst of mist in the space in front, and a man in black suddenly appeared. He stood in the air with his hands behind his back, his black robe fluttering in the wind, his black hair parted, and he looked at everyone with indifference and arrogance. "Dharma Supreme?" Yu Lingxue's eyes narrowed slightly, and he said indifferently, "You want to stop me from going on a killing spree?" The Dharma Supreme said indifferently, "At least, when I'm here. You have to give me some face, okay?" Yu Lingxue shook his head slightly, and said solemnly, "No. No." The Dharma Supreme's eyes were warm. His voice was gentle, but a huge force came from nowhere. He said indifferently, "We've known each other for more than 10,000 years. I'm just asking for some face from my old brother, and you're not going to give it." Yu Lingxue shook his head slightly and said, "It's indeed not good." He raised his head slightly, his eyes sharp. Looking at the Dharma Supreme, he said softly but firmly, "You and I have different path." Everyone's heart skipped a beat. The Moon Breeze couple and the Dharma Supreme had finally shed all pretense of cordiality today. Not even giving him face. Even more clearly, in front of everyone in the big clans, he said this sentence again, "You and I have different path." This sentence had been said at the city gate back then. But at that time, Yu Lingxue had come to inform them. Before the battle. Inform first, and then have a proper battle. This was the rule of the martial world, the greatest respect to one's opponent. So at that time, they didn't think much of it. But now, when the Dharma Supreme asked for some face and said this sentence again, it was a ruthless and merciless falling out. Although Yu Lingxue was angry because of his brother, saying such words and doing such a thing at this moment. Undoubtedly, it was a little too much. Murderous intent flashed in the Dharma Supreme's eyes. Then, he put his hands behind his back and smiled lightly. However, everyone could clearly sense that the aura of a sovereign that descended from the heavens had become a little more intense. The next moment. Just like that, he walked down step by step from the air as if he was stepping on the stairs. Everyone saw that the Dharma Supreme was still in the air, but the next moment, he was already standing on the ground. However, everyone could clearly feel that the Dharma Supreme was still slowly walking down step by step. The contrast between extreme movement and extreme stillness in the same action had an unparalleled visual impact on everyone. Many of the people present were utmost exalted level cultivators. However, even they were mistaken. Yu Lingxue's pupils shrank slightly. He said indifferently, "Dharma Supreme, your lawful embodiment of heaven and earth has improved again." The Dharma Supreme smiled with his hands behind his back. "Brother Yu is right. I was lucky to have improved again. Brother Yu, don't tell me that you want to fight with me now. You and your wife are the people I don't want to be enemies with the most in this world." He sighed softly. "It's not because of your martial skills, but because of our 10,000 years of friendship." He shook his head, his long black hair fluttering in the wind. There was an indescribable elegance, but there was an eerie coldness. "I don't want to destroy that friendship." Feng Yuro looked at the Dharma Supreme warily. She moved slightly closer to her husband. In fact, with their cultivations and special cultivation techniques, they could transmit their cultivations to each other even if they were hundreds of feet apart, let alone close to each other. But for some reason, when the Dharma Supreme appeared this time, Feng Yuro actually had a feeling that he could separate her from her husband. She couldn't help but take a step forward. Yu Lingxue was silent for a moment, then he smiled indifferently. "Actually, on the day I left Law Enforcement City, you should have known that our friendship is no longer there." Chapter 1031. Yu Lingxue smiled suavely. "If the Dharma Supreme insists on stopping me from doing things, then I have such intentions." The Dharma Supreme smiled. "Actually, I understand what you mean. Although the Lan clan has offended you this time, you are also using this as a pretext to make a fuss. You want to use this as a reason to destroy my plan of nourishing the heavens in advance." Yu Lingxue was silent for a moment before he said, "You are going against the heavens to nourish the heavens. It will never succeed. The mission of the law enforcement officers for 100,000 years is not something that you alone can change." The Dharma Supreme smiled indifferently. "Whether it can be done or not depends on your ability." Yu Lingxue said dully, "Yes, come." The Dharma Supreme did not move, but at this moment, he gave off the feeling that he was 100,000 feet tall, looking down on all living thing. He said indifferently, "I invite you and your wife to battle with me. A battle to settle all enmity, a battle to decide the fate of the 7th Division, a battle to be merciless, a battle to decide life and death." Yu Lingxue looked up and laughed. "That's right, a battle to be merciless, a battle to decide life and death. Dharma Supreme, since you want to decide life and death, then we will sacrifice our lives to accompany you today." Feng Yuro let out a clear whistle and unsheathed her sword. The Dharma Supreme was still smiling indifferently. "Let's battle." His hands, which were behind his back, finally lowered slowly. Then, he raised them gently, his black robes fluttering. With a stretch of his hand, He made an inviting gesture. Come and battle. It was such a gesture that suddenly, the entire night sky, the entire heaven and earth, was filled with a deathly invitation. Lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. At this moment, the Dharma Supreme had already merged his body with the heaven and earth. At this moment, he was the heaven and earth. When he attacked, the heavens moved. When he retreated, the earth fled. No matter who it was, if they attacked him at this moment, it would be as if they were battling the heaven and earth at the same time. How could a person win against the heavens? Although the Dharma Supreme spoke indifferently, his heart was already filled with murderous intent. He wanted to unleash his greatest power in the shortest time possible to defeat or kill the Feng and Yu couple. If he could do it, then his prestige in the heavens would be even greater. He would completely suppress Ning Qianya's 7th Division and Bu Liuqing. Moreover, their invincible state of mind belonging to the strong would be even stronger. If he won this battle, he would even have the confidence to fight against Ning Qianya and Bu Liuqing at the same time. Lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. It was heart-tempering. The bigger your heart, the stronger your cultivation. A person who often wins and a person who often loses have a different mindset. The Dharma Supreme often won, but what he needed more was a victory against two pinnacle experts at the same time. Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro straightened their bodies at the same time and said indifferently, "Please." The husband and wife's eyes were sharp and firm, and an abundant aura soared into the sky. With the determination to go forward without turning back. It collided with the Dharma Supreme's aura that had merged with the heavens and earth. In an instant, the wind and clouds in the sky changed color. In the cold winter night, with a boom, the wind and clouds scattered in all directions, revealing the entire deep night sky. Stars twinkled. With such momentum, even Yi Di and the others couldn't help but take a big step back. The three auras intertwined together. If these three people wanted to fight, as long as they made a move. In this world, there was probably no one who could separate the three of them. No one would have thought that the Moon Breeze couple would have reached the point where the Dharma Supreme had no choice but to fight so early. Everyone in the Zhuge clan had complicated expressions. They hoped that the Dharma Supreme would make a move and destroy the Moon Breeze couple, but also hoped that they wouldn't fight. No matter who won or lost this battle, even if the Moon Breeze couple died. Or if the three of them perished together. But the Zhuge clan's base was destined to be gone. The crowd watched with bated breaths. Watching this battle of the pinnacle that was about to begin, it looked like these three pinnacle experts were going to fight together. Suddenly, swoosh, a sharp sword aura cut across the sky. This sword aura was bright and dazzling, and actually lit up the whole world in an instant. Even if the scorching sun suddenly appeared in the sky, it wouldn't be as bright as this. The source of this sword aura was actually 10,000 feet away. Just like that, it came over in such a majestic manner, as if it had split the whole night sky into two halves. A voice said indifferently, "Dharma Supreme, if you make a move today, I also want to try your divine embodiment of heaven and earth." He laughed hoarsely and said indifferently, "I don't know if the divine embodiment of heaven and earth is better, or if my merciful sword is unique." Bu Liuqing. Everyone was shocked. This supreme martial artist actually chose to make a move at such a time. Moreover, his stance was obviously on the side of supreme martial artist Feng and Moon. The Dharma Supreme's gaze froze. He said indifferently, "Brother Bu, why do you have to do this?" The aura and state of mind that he had accumulated to the peak were completely shattered by Bu Liuqing's word. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Is it because he didn't come out to help me that I can't do this? No need to do this. From afar, Bu Liuqing's voice said indifferently, "Even you can't hold it in and want to make a move. My composure is weaker than yours." The Dharma Supreme laughed bitterly. "Brother Bu, if I don't make a move, everyone here will be killed by the Moonbreeze couple." As he spoke, his aura was slowly dissipating. He knew that with Bu Liuqing here and with such an attitude, he was destined to not be able to fight this battle. The Dharma Supreme might not care about Bu Liuqing now. However, the problem was that Bu Liuqing and Ning Qianya were one and the same. Offending Bu Liuqing was equivalent to offending Ning Qianya at the same time. The Dharma Supreme dared to face Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro at the same time with absolute confidence. However, he definitely didn't have the confidence to face both Bu Liuqing and Ning Tianya at the same time. Therefore, Bu Liuqing's appearance this time was really impeccable. Although he had helped the Moonbreeze couple, at the same time, he had also greatly reduced the Dharma Supreme's confidence, because the Dharma Supreme didn't dare to make a move now. Once a person's heart had the word "don't dare," there would also be fear. With fear, confidence would also plummet. Moreover, what the Dharma Supreme cultivated was the heart. On one hand, Bu Liuqing had some friendship with the Moonbreeze couple. On the other hand, it was also because he felt the Dharma Supreme's rising battle interest and excitement that he suddenly came out to stop him. He knew that if the Dharma Supreme passed this hurdle, he would probably be completely above him. Therefore, Bu Liuqing didn't hesitate to make a move. Although he didn't really start the battle, he had already dealt a heavy blow to the Dharma Supreme. This blow was aimed at the Dharma Supreme's heart. It was a vital spot. Bu Liuqing smiled coldly. Whether the people here live or die, whether they are killed by the Moonbreeze couple or not, it has nothing to do with me. I only know that once you make a move, you will be the first Dharma Supreme to be killed and fall in the heavens in 100,000 years. It was a further blow to his confidence. This time, Bu Liuqing used life and death. A battle between two peak experts, the meaning behind the words and the impact on one's mental state was far greater than that of a sword and a saber. Yi Di, Xiao Se, and the rest were all smart people. They naturally knew that the conversation between the two had, in fact, already started the battle between the peak expert. They couldn't help but perk up their ears, accurately capturing the special meaning behind every sentence from both parties. Comparing it with their own cultivation and mental state, everyone actually had a feeling of sudden realization. The Dharma Supreme's eyes flashed and he said indifferently, "Brother Bu, you are too confident. I'm afraid that instead of killing, Brother Bu will be killed. Brother Bu should know that if Brother Bu wants to have a one-on-one battle with me, it's not that I can't do it." Step by step, the Dharma Supreme was forced into a corner by Bu Liuqing and finally started to counterattack. And this counterattack was to separate Bu Liuqing and the Moonbreeze couple for a one-on-one battle. If he were to attack the Moonbreeze couple, Bu Liuqing would definitely join in the battle. But if he were to directly challenge Bu Liuqing, with Bu Liuqing's status and pride, he would rather die than let the Moonbreeze couple help. And if the Moonbreeze couple were to interfere, Bu Liuqing would instead be furious. Therefore, the Moonbreeze couple didn't dare to interfere rashly. The Dharma Supreme's counterattack blocked the Moonbreeze couple's way of participating in the battle with just one sentence. Although it didn't go with his original intention, he could easily achieve his goal. A figure flashed and Bu Liuqing, dressed in green and white, instantly traversed a distance of 10,000 feet and suddenly appeared in midair. In his hand, a long sword shone with green light. He just stood in midair, sword in hand, body like a sword, gaze like a sword. He sneered at the crowd below and recited slowly, "Walking the world, I see a lonely shadow. Looking at the world, I walk alone. The world is but a path of life and death. The merciful sword shows no mercy." Bu Liuqing said coldly, "Dharma Supreme, come and fight with me." Facing the Dharma Supreme's counterattack, Bu Liuqing directly challenged him. This was an even more domineering answer, even a form of oppression. "You say you can kill me, then fight with me. Let's see if I kill you or you kill me." Although the Dharma Supreme had a mental barrier because of Bu Liuqing and had no choice but to break through, how could Bu Liuqing not want to break through his own mental demons? Ever since he knew that the Dharma Supreme had innate spirit meridians, Bu Liuqing felt uncomfortable. So tonight, he must defeat him. He had to overcome his inner demons. The Dharma Supreme's eyes flashed and he said indifferently, "Why can't I fight with you?" However, the Moonbreeze couple is not allowed to kill anyone tonight. His words were vague but expressed very clearly. If the Moonbreeze couple were to fight, I would have to worry about the consequences. Even if it was a decisive battle, it would not be a decisive battle in the truest sense. You are already going overboard by stopping me from avenging my disciple. Now that the two of you are having a decisive battle, you still want to restrict my actions? Dharma Supreme. Don't you think you are meddling too much? Yu Lingxue was furious and was about to explode. Suddenly, a soft voice entered his ears. Your disciple is fine. However, the Lan clan cannot be let off easily. Yu Lingxue's body shook and a look of joy appeared on his face. It was the voice of that mysterious woman. Yu Lingxue's expression changed and he said indifferently, not fighting, fine. However, the main culprit tonight, the Lan clan, must give me an explanation. Otherwise, even if the Dharma Supreme and Brother Bu stop us at the same time, even if the two of us cannot kill everyone here, we are confident that we can kill more than half of them and leave calmly. Chapter 1032. Lan Muxue was already severely injured by Zi Sheqing. How could he still come? When the Dharma Supreme asked this question, the entire place was silent. Even the members of the Lan clan were silent. They did not know why their old ancestor had not arrived yet. The Dharma Supreme said coldly, the other 8 clans, leave. Disperse. As for the Lan clan, Brother Yu, you can deal with them as you see fit. However, I hope that this matter will end here. After saying that, the Dharma Supreme stood up, his black robe fluttering in the air. He said, Brother Bu, since you want to fight, then come with me. He had no choice but to agree to Yu Lingxue's request. Bu Liuqing was obviously going against him. If the Moon Breeze couple were to interfere and the 3 of them surrounded him, that would be really bad. With his status, he couldn't possibly run away, right? Therefore, the Dharma Supreme had no choice but to agree first. The Moon Breeze couple had to deal with the Lan clan and couldn't rush over to join hands with Bu Liuqing. However, a battle with Bu Liuqing would be beneficial to him instead. At the very least, it would be a boost to his cultivation and comprehension. Bu Liuqing pointed his sword and said indifferently, follow me. The sword light flashed and turned into a bolt of lightning. With a loud boom, Bu Liuqing had already disappeared without a trace. The Dharma Supreme laughed loudly. In a flash, he was like a black cloud, with his hands behind his back and his long hair fluttering in the wind. Everyone knew that he had already left, but they felt that his black robe was still floating slowly in the air. With a furious roar, Feng Yuro and Yu Lingxue attacked the Lan clan at the same time. Even without Zi Sheqing's words, the 2 of them didn't intend to let the Lan clan off. Since the Lan clan dared to attack them, they had to pay the price. With 2 supreme martial artists attacking together, it was a clean and efficient attack. In just a moment, the Lan clan was already dead and injured, with only 2 supreme martial artists escaping desperately. Yu Lingxue wanted to give chase, but Feng Yuro stopped him. Let them go. From now on, we won't have any relationship with the Lan clan anymore. We'll repay Maixian for her kindness. Yu Lingxue snorted with some reluctance, but ultimately didn't give chase. Then, the husband and wife glanced coldly at the 8 great clans present. Without saying a word, they flew away with a swoosh. Zhuge Hutu waved his sleeves and led the Zhuge family away. He turned around and scolded, serves you right. The other 7 families rolled their eyes. Zhuge Hutu finally understood that these guys were all after the sacred tribe elder locked up in the dungeon. Because of the wrong information, it led to today's battle. How could Zhuge Hutu not be depressed? How important was the medicine banquet to nourish the heavens? It concerned the fate of the entire clan. Yet, these fellows were still scheming and robbing at such a time. Fuck. What the hell? The second grandmaster of the Zhuge family spat in disdain and left. However, he still felt a little happy in his heart. Damn it, our Zhuge clan only lost 2 people, but each of your clans lost dozens of people. From this point of view, the Zhuge clan actually benefited from the glory. Humans were like this. They thought that they were unlucky, so they felt bad. But if they suddenly found out that someone else was unluckier than them, they would immediately become happy. The Zhuge family left. Then, there was a moment of silence. Then, suddenly, a commotion broke out like a flash flood. The Yi clan lost the 2nd young master and more than 70 experts. The Xiao clan lost the 5th young master and more than 10 experts. Both clans were very sullen. As for the other clans, the Shi clan lost more than 40 experts, the Ling clan lost 40, the the Li clan lost 35, the Chen clan lost close to 50, and the Li clan lost the most. The Li clan came uninvited and wanted to gain something without risking anything. In the end, they lost the most, a total of 10 expert. It could be said to be a great loss. Let's go. Li Xiangxi waved his hand and left with his subordinates without saying anything. Why did his clan lose the most people? Li Xiangxi knew very well. It was because of that one of the tribulations of his clan, Li Xiongtu. With one of the tribulations in the Li clan, he would become the target of the other 8 clans. If he stayed any longer, if this bunch of red-eyed fellows suddenly attacked like mad dogs, his Li clan would definitely be the first to bear the brunt. Therefore, the Li clan retreated first. The Chen clan was the third to leave. The Chen clan could be considered to be extremely tragic. They had saved a huge sum of expenses, bribing Chu Yang. They only sent people to keep a close eye on the other clans. Everyone was ready to go, and they would immediately follow up once there was a move. Therefore, after painstaking planning, they finally managed to make up for this huge loss. The other clans still had a reason to find trouble with Chu Yang and beat him up to vent their anger. However, the Chen clan didn't even have such an excuse. They could only leave in dismay. They accepted this loss. Shi Jing of the Shi clan was the first to make trouble. Taking advantage of his seniority, he scolded, "A bunch of pig brains. Don't you use your brains when you do things? Are all of your brains filled with tofu dregs? Oh, your ancestors. Even if our Shi clan is made of stone and can't think, don't tell me all your clans have the same surname as us. Fuck. Then we're still one clan?" Xiao Se and Yi Di's faces darkened. This bastard Shi Jing was obviously using this as an excuse to make a fuss. How was he scolding his own clan? He was obviously scolding them indirectly. This fellow had suffered a loss when he was delegating tasks to the Dharma Supreme. As expected, he was acting up now. Ling Fengyun said angrily, "Shut up. If you don't want to become a pile of dead stones, take your men and scram. I'm already depressed, so don't make me annoyed." Shi Jing stomped his feet and scolded, "What do you mean?" Xiao Se stepped forward coldly. "Everyone has died. Why don't we settle our own affairs? Shi Jing, if you're unhappy, no one is happy. If you really make us angry, all of us will beat you up together." Xiao Se's words were very well spoken. Although he was teaching Shi Jing a lesson, he seemed to have unintentionally pulled everyone closer together. Shi Jing shrank his neck and scolded, "Fuck. If we can't afford to offend you, can't we just hide?" Just like that, he left with his men. Then, everyone counted their losses. The more they counted, the more gloomy their faces became. 73 people from the Yi clan died. One of them is a first-grade supreme martial artist, 3 of them are second-grade martial saints, 11 of them are 8th-grade martial saints, 17 of them are 7th-grade martial saints, 5 of them are second-grade martial saints, and the rest are 4th-grade martial saint. Including the second-in-command of the younger generation, Yi Shifeng. Yi Shifeng died in the hands of the Xiao clan. Among the 73 people, 41 were killed by the Xiao clan, 7 died in the hands of the Ling clan, 12 died in the hands of the Lan clan, 2 died in the hands of the Chen clan, 1 died in the hands of the Li clan, 3 died in the hands of the Shi clan, and 2 died in the hands of the Xiao clan. Yi Di stood with his hands behind his back, his eyes flashing. "You have to give me an explanation too." "Bullshit." Xiao Se was the first to jump up. 17 people from the Xiao clan died. More than 50 of them died in the hands of the Yi clan. Even the 5th young master of the younger generation died. Furthermore, it was the Yi clan who killed him first. Who is going to give us an explanation? Ling Fengyun snorted coldly and said, "Many people from the Ling clan died in the hands of the Yi clan. I still want an explanation." Ching Cho smiled faintly. "The blood debt of the Yi clan is not small either." Yi Di was furious. "Where is this place? This is the territory of the Yi clan. What are all of you doing here? Dead. Serves you right for being dead. You actually want an explanation? Ridiculous." The grand ancestors quarreled for a while, each of them arguing until their faces and necks were flushed red. All of them felt wronged and indignant. However, They were at a stalemate and no one could convince the other. The more they argued, the more intense it became. The members of the various clans behind them had tears in their eyes as they collected the remains of their brothers and elders. They were filled with murderous intent. It looked like a war was about to break out again. Seeing that the situation was not good and seemed to be out of control, Edi frowned and said, "There are only a few of us now. It is meaningless to talk about it. Let's find an opportunity. The 5 of us are here. This matter has nothing to do with the Chen clan, Li clan, or Zhuge clan. The Lan clan is already dead. Later, we will look for Lan Muxue and find out what is going on. Then, we will find an opportunity to capture that person called Chu Yang and interrogate him. Let's get to the bottom of this before we talk about other things. As for the losses of each clan, we will come up with an agreement after the trial. Each clan must be responsible for the compensation." Yi Di looked at the elders with great authority. "What do you think of my suggestion?" "Good. Let's capture that Chu Yang first. Anyway, everyone has a big business. No one can run away." Xiao Se was the first to agree. Although the others were not convinced, they could only do this for now. The feud between the Xiao clan and the Yi clan was getting deeper and deeper. However, it did not erupt on a large scale. The root cause was Yi Di and Xiao Se. These two were good friends back then. If it were not for the friendship between these two elders, the two clans would have been in a bloodbath long ago. Although both clans were in a lot of blood, Xiao Se was the first to agree to Yi Di's suggestion. This showed that the relationship between these two was not ordinary. Ching Chou laughed out loud and said, "Actually, even though we have suffered a lot of losses, but compared to the Lan clan, it pales in comparison and is not worth mentioning. Lan Muxue, this old bastard, went for wool and came home shorn. If he is still alive, he must be very depressed." The other second grandmasters started to laugh at the misfortune of the Lan clan. The atmosphere became less tense. "Lan Muxue will not die. The last 2 high-level supreme martial artists of the Lan clan have been released. Why would they kill Lan Muxue? However, it is expected that Lan Muxue will suffer a lot this time," Edi said. Ling Fengyun said, "Congratulations, Brother Yi. We have one less strong competitor. That elder of the divine tribe." "Ha ha ha," Yi Di's face darkened. He said, "With your Ling clan, I won't be lonely." Ling Fengyun laughed. After the discussion, everyone packed up and prepared to leave. The ground was full of blood. Everyone was melancholic. Chapter 1033. While everyone was discussing, a loud explosion suddenly came from the distant horizon. Then, a huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Countless places in the sky cracked and pitch-black cracks appeared. It was obvious that the Dharma Supreme and Bu Liuqing had started fighting. Yi Di and the rest looked into the distance cautiously, their expressions complicated. The Dharma Supreme and Bu Liuqing's level was a level that these few people dreamed of but had yet to reach. Rumbling sounds could be heard from afar. After a short while, a bolt of lightning flashed in mid-air, splitting the entire sky into 2 halves. This bolt of lightning seemed to have connected the blue sky and the earth. Its grandeur was simply incomparable. Mercy sword. Bu Liuqing has made his move. Everyone was shocked. Yi Di and Xiao Se looked solemn. Seeing this sword, both of them thought of one thing at the same time. If Bu Liuqing had attacked them with this sword, both of them looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. "Everyone, let's go back. Don't think about going to watch the battle. A battle of this level is a blow to our confidence." Ling Fengyun laughed. The other second grandmasters laughed as well, but their expressions were forced. Just as everyone was about to leave, they suddenly felt the entire ground tremble. They looked over in shock and saw that the lightning was like a chain of lightning, appearing in the sky one after another, illuminating the area as if it was daytime. On the other side of the sword light, there was a floating mountain peak. The entire mountain peak was used as a sledgehammer, fiercely hammering down on the sword light again and again, and again, and again, hammering down. It's the Dharma Supreme. The Dharma Supreme's divine art of heaven and earth. Everyone gasped. Picking up a mountain and throwing it out was something that everyone present could do. But picking up a mountain and smashing it down did not work, and then retrieving it and smashing it down again. This required more than 100 times the strength needed to lift a mountain. However, the Dharma Supreme actually continued to smash the mountain. One could clearly see that the entire mountain had turned into powder. Bu Liuqing's sword light was still flying in the sky. Fine stone foam and dust floated in the sky above Tianji City. It became grey and hazy. When they saw this, all the second ancestors sighed in unison. They were momentarily at a loss for words. When Bu Liuqing and the Dharma Supreme left, a white shadow flashed at a speed that could not be seen and appeared at the hiding place of Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian. "Have you seen enough? Let's go." The white figure grabbed one of them with one hand and then waved his other hand in the air. Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian saw the space in front of them being forcefully pulled apart like a piece of cloth. Mountains, rivers, and buildings seemed to have suddenly sped up in front of them. They were rushing towards them at a rapid speed, and then disappeared. Following which, Zi Sheqing carried the two of them and took a huge step forward. This step was like stepping over life and death, stepping over the netherworld. After taking a step out, Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian suddenly realized that they had already left Tianji City and arrived at the outskirts of the wilderness. Tearing the space apart, 1,000 miles in one step, Chu Yang sucked in a breath of cold air. He knew that Zi Sheqing was very strong, but he definitely did not know that Zi Sheqing could actually carry two people and tear the space apart to the extent of 1,000 miles in a single step. "Wrong," Zi Sheqing said lightly. "This place is 2,700 miles away from Tianji City." Chu Yang was instantly petrified. Wu Qianqian at the side looked at Zi Sheqing as if she was in a dream. Her mind was in a daze. Ever since Wu Qianqian followed Chu Yang, she was used to seeing the change of dynasties and was also used to seeing cruelty. She was even more indifferent to life and death and had seen through life. She had also experienced shock. Ever since she became the disciple of Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro, Wu Qianqian had seen even more of the world. By right, at this stage, ordinary things would not cause Wu Qianqian to be shocked at all, and would not disturb her calm state of mind. But at this moment, she was really dumbfounded and only felt that the world was spinning. She did not expect that Sister Z, who had a friendly conversation with her that day, actually had such a terrifying cultivation, tearing the entire space apart like a piece of cloth, carrying two people and traversing 2,700 miles in one step. What kind of concept was this? Wu Qianqian did not know, but she knew that even if her two masters combined their strength and multiplied it by 10, they would definitely not be able to do this. In that case, wasn't this Sister Z the real number one in this heavenly layer? Wu Qianqian opened her pretty little mouth and only closed it after a long time. She sighed and said, "So Sister Z is the real number one in this heavenly layer." She finally said this sentence. It was really like a fishbone stuck in her throat. "Wrong," Zi Sheqing said lightly. "I'm not the number one in this heavenly layer, but I'm the number one in all the planes within a radius of 70 million miles outside this heavenly layer." Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian felt dizzy at the same time. This is the most secluded and least populated place. It's the most suitable place for two supreme martial artists to battle. Zi Sheqing said, "In a while, I'll use my elemental energy to protect you and go over to see a battle between experts of this level with your own eyes." She looked at Chu Yang steadily and said, "This will be very beneficial for your future achievements. Moreover, this kind of battle between experts of similar strength is the rarest. You have to comprehend it well." Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian nodded seriously. Even without her saying, both of them knew how rare this opportunity was. The battle between the Dharma Supreme and Bu Liuqing was definitely a battle at the peak of the heavenly layer. The benefits they could gain were even more than the battle between Ning Tianya and Bu Liuqing, because the battle between Ning Tianya and Bu Liuqing would not be life-threatening, but the Dharma Supreme and Bu Liuqing both wanted to kill each other. This kind of battle, those who were close to the level did not dare to watch, because they were working hard towards this goal. After watching this battle, it would leave a shadow of never to surpass. Then, it would really be over. Therefore, Ling Fengyun said, if we watch a battle of this level, it will be a blow to our confidence. But Chu Yang and Wu Chanxian were now far from this level, so they did not feel anything. Just like a person who could earn $1 million a month, when he saw someone who could earn $10 million, he would immediately feel, I thought I was very awesome and was as awesome as a donkey every day, but it turns out that he is much stronger than me. This is such a blow to my self-esteem. But a person who could only earn $1,000 a month, when he saw someone who could earn $10 million, would humbly learn and refer to his successful experience, and even make him his ultimate goal. Yes, that was more or less the case. As they spoke, a flash of sword light came from the direction of the hidden danger, making a sharp whistling sound, as if it was going to split the sky. It was Bu Liuqing. Behind him, a figure followed closely behind like a dark cloud. His movements were neither fast nor slow, confident and at ease, with a kind of calm and domineering aura of a sovereign. It was the Dharma Supreme. Wu Chanxian originally admired and respected these two people, but now, she did not know why, but a thought like that's all there is to it. Even Wu Chanxian herself was shocked by this thought. The impact of Zi Sheqing was really too great. Bu Liuqing and the Dharma Supreme were the first to move. They had already walked quite a distance before Zi Sheqing brought Chu Yang and Wu Chanxian to move. The three of them had already waited for a while before the two of them finally arrived. No wonder Wu Chanxian had such thoughts. Zi Sheqing's eyes flashed. With a wave of her slender hand, an invisible aura cut off all the senses of the outside world, including sight, hearing, and intuition. Bu Liuqing landed on the ground with a swoosh. Without turning his head, he said indifferently, Brother Dharma Supreme, what do you think of the feng shui of this burial place that I have chosen for you? The Dharma Supreme's black figure stopped in the air like a demon god. With his hands behind his back, he looked around, as if he was really checking the feng shui. After a long while, he nodded in satisfaction and said with a smile, if Brother Bu is buried here, this place will not be in vain. It will definitely become a sword mountain in the future. Looks like Brother Bu has already made arrangements for his funeral. Bu Liuqing's slender figure stood alone. He laughed coldly and said, if it is the burial place of the Dharma Supreme, I think it will be more suitable. The Dharma Supreme shook his head and laughed. He said casually, Brother Bu, actually, there is something that I do not understand. Speak. Bu Liuqing seemed to have guessed what he was going to say and said calmly, Brother Bu is full of enmity towards me. The Dharma Supreme said, 13,000 years ago, when I was inaugurated as the Dharma Supreme, Brother Bu went to the law enforcement city to look for me. After meeting me, he turned and left without saying a word. That was the first time we met. The Dharma Supreme was puzzled and said, I still remember that time. Among all the guests in the world, Brother Bu gave me the most gifts, and they were also the most precious. At that time, I was still a little flattered, haha. I thought that I had found a soulmate, but the truth was not so. Why? 7,000 years ago, when I was chasing after the supreme demon Mu Qingtian, I met Brother Bu again. That time, Brother Bu even drew his sword against me. Right in front of Tianji City, Brother Bu mocked and ridiculed me. He even scolded me in front of the people of the big clans. The Dharma Supreme said in puzzlement, I have always been puzzled. When did I offend you, Brother Bu? Bu Liuqing was silent for a long time before he asked, Who are you? The Dharma Supreme was stunned and said, Who am I? Bu Liuqing looked at him with cold and sharp eyes and said coldly, That's right, who are you? The Dharma Supreme's pupils contracted and his black hair moved without wind. He laughed softly and said, Brother Bu, are you confused? I am right in front of you, how can you not recognize me? Bu Liuqing suddenly laughed loudly, his voice piercing through the clouds. Dharma Supreme, do you know, Dongfang Badao is my friend. He is also from my hometown, the two of us came from the same village. Moreover, Dongfang Badao is my rival in love. My wife back then was also from the same village. When Dongfang Badao was young, he was also madly in love with her. However, she married me later on. Bu Liuqing's voice was very light, but his eyes were as sharp as a sword. Chapter 1034. Hearing Bu Liuqing's words, especially the name Dongfang Badao, the Dharma Supreme's face suddenly changed. At this moment, his face was as pale as a ghost. His long hair swayed without any wind, like long black snakes dancing in the air above his head. His eyes emitted a dark light as he stared at Bu Liuqing and said word by word, Bu Liuqing, what is the meaning of this? Bu Liuqing raised his head slightly, his eyes were complicated. He said sadly, your body belongs to Dongfang Badao, but you are not. He raised his head and looked into the eyes of the Dharma Supreme. You are the one who was in the land of calamity 20,000 years ago. The Dharma Supreme was silent, his eyes became two bottomless pools. He said lightly, Brother Bu, what you said today is very strange. Don't search anymore. Bu Liuqing said lightly, Dongfang Badao failed to pursue Xiao Yi. On the day of my marriage with Xiao Yi, he drank until he was dead drunk and then sealed his memory by force. 3,000 years later, Dongfang Badao came to drink with me. He said that he finally deleted a part of his memory from his heart after 3,000 years. Dongfang Badao was my best brother in life. He was also the most trusted person in Xiao Yi's life besides me. Xiao Yi's body was weak and she was born weak. Although I tried my best to prolong her life, she could only accompany me for 100 years. She could no longer stop the passage of time. She passed away. If I had my current cultivation at that time, Xiao Yi would not have died. Sigh. Speaking of this, Bu Liuqing looked up and sighed. Bu Liuqing's eyes emitted deep emotions. 2,100 years after Xiao Yi died, Dongfang Badao found me. He said that in order not to let me down, in order not to let Xiao Yi down, he deleted his memory and did not let himself think of her anymore. Even his soul was missing a part. When Bu Liuqing said this, Chu Yang, who had been hiding in Zi Sheqing's breath, trembled. Zi Sheqing turned her head in surprise and asked, what happened? Chu Yang's expression was complicated. He said, I see. This Dongfang Badao. His friendship with Bu Liuqing and his persistence in love is really scary and enviable. Friendship. Stubbornness in love. Zi Sheqing obviously could not understand the complicated feelings involved. This person was his best friend's rival in love, but on the night his best friend married the woman he loved the most, he sealed his memories. Why? What's more, 3,000 years later, that woman had already been dead for 2,100 years, but he had succeeded in his cultivation. At that time, he would rather destroy a piece of his own soul. He also wanted to completely destroy the memories of that time. Why was that? Wu Qian sighed and said, perhaps I can explain. Zi Sheqing tilted her head and said, oh? Dongfang Badao and Bu Liuqing are good friends. Both of them are pursuing a woman at the same time. And this woman was also their best friend. They were from the same hometown. This woman married Bu Liuqing and did not choose Dongfang Badao. Since they are married, there is no thought, but Dongfang Badao loves her too deeply and can't let go. However, the person he couldn't let go of was his best friend's wife. Even if he did not say it out loud. He also felt sorry for his friend. I feel like I'm tarnishing the chastity of the woman I love the most. So he sealed his memories. He sealed his love, but at the same time fulfilled his friendship and his love. This is the greatest love a man can have for the woman he loves who is married to someone else. But 3,000 years later, he went to Bu Liuqing and said that he had deleted a certain memory. Because his lover was dead, if he kept it, he would let her down. So he would rather destroy his soul. He also wanted to delete the memory. This is a righteous man, and a real friend worth making. Wu Qian said softly. Zi Sheqing let out a long oh. She could not help but frown and think. Chu Yang sighed and said, I really don't know. He sealed his memories back then. How heartbroken it must be. And how painful it must be to resolutely delete one's own memories. This is not the pain of losing one's soul, but the greatest spiritual pain. Admirable. What a pity. Admirable that there is such a good man in the world. What a pity that this indomitable man is now dead, and even his body has been taken over by someone else. Chu Yang sighed deeply. Wu Qian also sighed. Thinking of this heroic Dongfang Badao in the past, but now lonely and sad. She couldn't help but feel a little sad. This was something that didn't need to be considered. If Dongfang Badao was not a heroic and righteous hero, how could he become the next Dharma Supreme? Chu Yang also finally understood why the law enforcement officers who had been on the side of the Tribulation Swordmaster for 100,000 years turned against him. So that's why. At this moment, the Dharma Supreme's long hair was flying, and his eyes were deep in thought. He smiled faintly and said, "Brother Bu, what you said is too ridiculous. Is there such a thing in the world?" Bu Liuqing ignored him, but his eyes were full of hatred. He stared at the Dharma Supreme and said, "You can deny it. I don't need you to admit it." He sneered and said slowly, "When Dongfang Badao came to find me, it was 13,400 years ago." Bu Liuqing said word by word. He actually remembered the time correctly. It was obvious that the incident back then had a deep impact on him. "And you were the one who took over the Dharma Supreme 13,000 years ago. Now that I think about it, Badao must have destroyed his divine soul in order to delete his memory, which gave you the opportunity to take over his body. At that time, I was happy for Badao. So, when I got the news that Badao took over the Dharma Supreme, I didn't hesitate to travel thousands of miles to Law Enforcement City to congratulate him. I want to drink to my heart's content with the best brother in my life." Bu Liuqing's voice was trembling. He laughed, but his laughter was full of sorrow. "My best brother, my friend, my fellow countryman, someone that Xiao Yi also believed in back then. Now that he has become the Dharma Supreme, you know how happy I was at that time. My brother is standing at the peak. This is his achievement. I'm proud." Bu Liuqing shouted heartbreakingly, "I'm proud. Do you understand? I'm proud. Do you understand?" At the side, Chu Yang sighed sadly. He had put down everything and traveled thousands of miles just to congratulate his brother. With a heart full of joy and an absolute pride of sharing the glory, he was ready to accompany his best brother to stand at the peak of the world and tell him, "I'm here. We've always been together." I'll tell him, no matter where you stand. A brother is a brother. What kind of excitement was that? But when Bu Liuqing arrived at the location and saw his brother with ecstasy and excitement, he suddenly realized that his brother was no longer his brother. He didn't know what had taken over his brother's body. He had become a stranger. What kind of feeling was that? Chu Yang felt that if he were Bu Liuqing, at that moment, he would probably cry on the spot and fight with all his might. Bu Liuqing was able to endure it on the spot and then turn around to leave. He was already considered to have strong willpower. Thinking of Bu Liuqing's disappointment and despair at that time, thinking of the heroic Dongfang Badao ending up in such a miserable state, thinking of Bu Liuqing's disappointment when he went to congratulate his brother, at this moment, Wu Qianqian's heart ached and she even shed tears. For the friendship between men, Bu Liuqing continued with grief and indignation, "But when I saw you for the first time, you looked at me politely. I immediately knew that he was no longer him. He had become you. Because Dongfang Badao was in front of me. He never knew what politeness was. But your eyes at that time clearly showed that you didn't know me." At that time in the law enforcement city, there were many law enforcement experts. I was alone, so I immediately retreated. But, for 13,000 years, I've been looking for opportunities all the time. I've always wanted to kill you. To kill you. Bu Liuqing laughed loudly. "Who are you? You actually used my brother's face to swindle people? Compared to Dongfang Badao, you're nothing." The Dharma Supreme's face was so gloomy that it seemed as if water was about to drip out. He said lightly, "Bu Liuqing, you've gone too far. Do you know that slandering the supreme law enforcement expert like this is already a capital offense? Bah, your ancestors." Bu Liuqing laughed sadly. "Letting you live for another 13,000 years is enough for Badao to scold me in the underworld. To hell with your capital offense." The Dharma Supreme's eyes flashed, as if he was thinking. After hearing these impolite words, he actually didn't get angry. He seemed to be digging for something in his heart. Finally, it dawned on him. "So you're Bu Juijhui." Bu Liuqing trembled. Hearing this old name, he had mixed feelings. "Yes, I'm Bu Juijhui. You actually managed to find my real name in Tyrannical's memories. I am Bu Juij, but you can't find my wife's name. Let me tell you, her name is Lianyi. Bu Liuqing's original name was actually Bu Juij. Such a comedic name. But at this moment, both Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian didn't find this matter funny. Instead, they felt endless bitterness. Bu Juij, Lianyi. The Dharma Supreme muttered these two names. His brows furrowed slightly, and a trace of deep pain appeared on his face. His whole body actually convulsed. He couldn't help but grit his teeth and endure it. Then, he muttered, "How troublesome. It has already been sealed and deleted." After 13,000 years, hearing this name can actually still make this body that no longer belongs to him tremble in pain. How deep could his love have been back then? Bu Liuqing saw his abnormality but didn't take this opportunity to attack. On the contrary, his eyes lit up. How troublesome. The Dharma Supreme smiled slightly and pressed his temple with his hand. His gaze was deep, and no one knew what he was thinking. He seemed to be lamenting the hopeless love that had been sealed and deleted, but could still touch this body that was not under the control of the original owner after 13,000 years. It was an intense pain that had passed away a long, long time ago. It was actually so, eternal and indestructible. Chapter 1036. The Dharma Supreme loosened his fist slightly and stretched it. That white scar regained its color and he slowly clenched his fist again. Is he injured? Wu Qianqian looked at the white scar on the Dharma Supreme's fist and asked softly. No. Chu Yang focused his gaze and said, but it will definitely be very painful. Therefore, I predict that he will not fight empty-handed from now on. The Dharma Supreme was too careless in this test. Oh, not careless, but Bu Liuqing succeeded. Chu Yang hurriedly corrected her. Zi Sheqing, who was at the side, gave him a look of approval. Bu Liuqing succeeded? Wu Qianqian was a little confused. Bu Liuqing told that story to explain the whole story and to avenge his good friend. Thirdly, it also had an effect, which was to tell the Dharma Supreme, I know your background. I know your secret. Chu Yang said, the Dharma Supreme used this identity to deceive the world for 13,000 years. Now that it was suddenly exposed, of course he would feel a little guilty. Therefore, Bu Liuqing played a psychological game and suddenly released a domineering sword strike, causing the Dharma Supreme to be in a state of shock. Although it looked like they were evenly matched, the Dharma Supreme would definitely feel uncomfortable because Bu Liuqing had already grasped the rhythm of the battle. Rhythm, although this does not affect the outcome of the battle, as long as Bu Liuqing can continue to work hard, he can slowly gain the upper hand. And the upper hand can possibly turn into a victory. The victory will determine the outcome of the battle, and the outcome of the battle will determine life and death. Chu Yang heaved a sigh of relief, his gaze solemn. In a battle between experts, not even a word or a tone can be ignored. Who knows which aspect of the battle will be able to determine the outcome of the battle? Zi Sheqing smiled and said, but the Dharma Supreme will definitely not allow Bu Liuqing to take advantage of him like this. He will definitely counterattack next and equalize the battle. Chu Yang nodded in agreement. How could the Dharma Supreme allow himself to be at a disadvantage like this? Returning the favor was a definite matter. Wu Qianqian nodded. Both of them narrowed their eyes slightly at the same time, recalling the punch and sword strike just now. Right at this moment, in the middle of the battle between the Dharma Supreme and Bu Liuqing, the place where the sword light and the fist collided was dead silent. Then, suddenly, a teeth-numbing cracking sound rang out. The entire space actually began to crack apart at a speed visible to the naked eye. Thin cracks began to spread out in a zigzag manner from the space. At first, it was only as thick as a strand of hair, but as the cracks grew clearer and clearer, they became thicker and thicker, and they actually stretched for more than 300 miles. In the beginning, the hair-like crack had turned into a huge, mouth-like black hole that could devour the world. 300 li of space shattered at the same time. Immediately after, the power of the heavens and earth gathered from all directions, and in an instant, this space was completely repaired. Then, there was a loud explosion. On the ground, a huge mushroom cloud suddenly rose up. On the ground, hundreds of miles of trees were neatly cut off. The upper parts of the fallen tree trunks flew out like ripe dandelions, along with the treetop. Chu Yang and Wu Chen sighed at the same time. Suddenly, he realized that the rumors in the martial arts world were as nonsensical as the farts of pigs and dogs. It was said that one could benefit from a battle between experts for a lifetime with just one look. This was simply bullshit. The so-called spectator couldn't be too far away. For a battle between experts of this level, not to mention spectators, even standing within 300 li of the battle would be devoured until nothing was left. And one couldn't see anything from 2 to 3 li away. What benefits could there be? If not for Zi Sheqing's powerful cultivation, Chu Yang reckoned that he and Wu Chen would already be rotten to the core. They would definitely have each other. A huge hole appeared on the ground. No one knew how deep it was. The most outrageous thing was that at the bottom of the cave, a pool of spring water suddenly gushed out and rose high up into the air. Chu Yang sighed. So this is how the so-called rivers, lakes, and seas came to be. Zi Sheqing snorted and said, still in the mood to be playful. What are you thinking of? She turned and asked Wu Chen, what about you? Chu Yang pondered and recalled that sword and fist. He sighed and said, domineering. Indeed domineering. Wu Chen said, I did feel some emotions. A kind of extreme depression that suddenly erupted with a kind of thirst for exhilaration, as if this was a good thing. It was a kind of feeling that vented all the pain and sorrow that Bu Liuqing had accumulated over the past 10,000 years. Therefore, I feel that Bu Liuqing's following attacks will become more and more fierce. The Dharma Supreme wants to turn the tables. I'm afraid it will take some time. Wu Chen smiled embarrassedly and explained, this is just my intuition. Emotions. Exhilaration. Intuition. Zi Sheqing looked at Wu Chen with some surprise and sized her up. She praised sincerely, Sister Chen, you have a bright future indeed. Chu Yang was also moved. Wu Chen's words proved that she was a sentimental person. The next moment, lightning flashed across the sky from afar. Bu Liuqing's body grew from a small size and rushed back with a destructive sword light. His murderous aura filled the sky. Bu Liuqing was in the air, his long sword slashing continuously. From a few thousand feet away, streaks and streaks of sword light slashed towards the Dharma Supreme like lightning. Every streak of sword light was extremely accurate, aiming for the Dharma Supreme and slashing downward. This situation gave everyone the illusion that the god of thunder in the sky had gone mad. The sword light was like a torrential storm, illuminating the area within a radius of several hundred miles, brightly illuminating everything. The Dharma Supreme stood firmly on the ground like a mountain. As long as a sword light came, he would throw out a punch. One punch from the left, one punch from the right, one punch from the left, one punch from the right. Therefore, the sword light collapsed again and again. On the surface, Bu Liuqing was on the offensive while the Dharma Supreme was on the defensive. However, Bu Liuqing's sword light could not do anything to the Dharma Supreme's fist. It seemed that Bu Liuqing had lost. However, only real experts knew that at this level, there was no difference whether one had a sword or not. The Dharma Supreme's hand, the Dharma Supreme's fist, was the best weapon in the world. It was not inferior to Bu Liuqing's sword. However, Chu Yang could vaguely see something. He frowned and said, what is the Dharma Supreme doing? He looks calm, but he is actually on the defensive. Moreover, his fist was not as sharp as the swordlight after all. Therefore, if this goes on, he will definitely not be able to take it. Zi Sheqing said, that's why he is switching his hands. If he can completely block such a dense sword light with just one hand, then Bu Liuqing should be running for his life now. Wu Chen said, I feel that the Dharma Supreme is also very helpless now. Big Sister Zi said just now that he is unable to block more than 2 sword light with one punch. Therefore, although he looks calm, he is actually already at a disadvantage. However, Bu Liuqing's aura is at its peak now. The Dharma Supreme can only bitterly hold on for now. We will talk about it after this period. Not necessarily. Chu Yang shook his head. With Bu Liuqing's cultivation, If this continues, 3 to 5 months will not be a problem. How can he afford to waste this time? Moreover, if he keeps on defending, he will definitely lose. If this goes on, the Dharma Supreme will definitely lose. He is not such an unwise person. He must be up to something. Moreover, the Dharma Supreme has not revealed his weapon until now. Chu Yong concluded. However, he was thinking back to the moment when the space exploded. At that moment, when the space exploded, Chu Yang felt that his spine was tingling with excitement. He only felt that his whole person was in the clouds. In front of him, there were thousands of worlds, like fireworks blooming in front of him. So, this was it. This was a feeling that could only be understood but could not be described in words. Shattering the void, collapsing the sky and shattering the void. Zi Xieching looked at the profound light on Chu Yang's face and the familiar Tao state. She was actually a little stunned. She wanted Chu Yang to come and watch this battle of the pinnacle to pave the way for his future martial arts. Who would have thought that Chu Yang would actually comprehend a trace of the power of shattering here, even though it was just a tiny bit, an insignificant tiny bit. However, Zi Xieching was already shocked beyond words. It was as if her heart was also beating wildly. This was something that could only be comprehended when one reached the realm of collapsing the sky and shattering the void. What was Chu Yang's cultivation now? 4th grade sword master. The distance between him and that realm was 108,000 miles. Yet, at this moment, he was actually able to comprehend by analogy. Zi Xieching suddenly felt that the man and woman in front of her were both monsters. One of them was a martial saint but could predict the direction of the battle based on intuition. The other was a martial saint but could comprehend the surface of shattering the void. Monsters. Bu Liuqing slashed and stabbed continuously in mid-air as if he had gone mad. Rays of sword light, rays of sword light. Pieces of sword light flew over like snowflakes. The Dharma Supreme shattered them with a punch and the shattered sword light flew far away. Patches of trees were completely knocked down just like that. Piles and piles of mountain rocks were shattered just like that. There were also countless large rocks that were sent flying high into the air and then fell back down again. For a moment, it was as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was cracking. However, the surroundings of the Dharma Supreme and Bu Liuqing were calm. Calm. The space was shattered again and again and again and again. It was as if two gods had descended to the mortal world and started a battle in the mortal world. All of a sudden, watch out, the Dharma Supreme is about to move. Zi Xieching reminded solemnly. The Dharma Supreme was still punching hard, but his legs were trembling strangely. However, in the eyes of outsiders, his legs were obviously not moving. However, there seemed to be an extremely profound charm contained within this seemingly motionless, minute movement. Chu Yang's heart skipped a beat. He said, "Senior Sister Qianqian, have you thought of the fleeting snow cloud steps?" Wu Qianqian was also frowning. She said, "I was just about to say that although this kind of footwork is completely different from ours, it is also filled with the unique charm of the fleeting snow cloud steps." Chu Yang nodded and said thoughtfully, "Snow in the clouds, fleeting in the sky, advancing and retreating at the same time, advancing and returning at the same time." Chapter 1037. Following the display of this strange technique, the movements of the Dharma Supreme's hands became slower and slower. It could be clearly felt that when he first punched, his arms were straightened and punched out fiercely. However, Bu Liuqing's attacks became fiercer and fiercer, and the Dharma Supreme seemed to be unable to withstand it. His arms were already slowly retracting, and his punch met the sword light halfway. The distance between the two parties became even closer. Under the illumination of the sword light, Bu Liuqing's hair and beard were all green. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, but his expression was still cold and hard. All of a sudden, the Dharma Supreme let out a long howl. Suddenly, his two legs flew up and shattered the two streaks of sword light with his two kicks. Then, like a sharp arrow, his body shot out from the front to the back, facing the torrential sword light. His legs were like two dragons coming out of the sea, bringing with them a whirlwind and a thick cloud of black gas. Like lightning, He shattered 300 sword light and was already 70 to 80 feet away from Bu Liuqing. Then, his whole body started to spin like a windmill. At the same time, the whole world seemed to be spinning along with him. The Dharma Supreme's hands suddenly made strange gestures. The sky was suddenly filled with black gas. Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian, who were standing beside Zi Xiqing, felt dizzy at the same time. At this moment, the two of them felt that the top of their heads had become the earth and the bottom of their feet had become the blue sky. However, the two of them obviously did not move. Bu Liuqing let out a long howl. The sky becomes the earth becomes the sky. Dharma Supreme, your celestial body is indeed extraordinary. Suddenly, there was a long howl. The long sword paused, and then a sword sound that changed the color of the sky suddenly rang out. At this moment, the short sword at Wu Qianqian's waist actually left its scabbard with a clang. It floated in front of Wu Qianqian, and the tip of the sword pointed in the direction of Bu Liuqing. Chu Yang's pupils shrank. The Dharma Supreme laughed lightly. Bu Liuqing, you finally showed your trump card. I guessed right. You are indeed the supreme martial artist of the sword. Bu Liuqing sneered. The supreme martial artist of the sword can rule the world. Your celestial body is just a joke in front of me. Don't forget, this is the world of the sword, the world of the heavens. A loud roar. The long sword flew into the sky and suddenly, it was hidden in the starry sky. Then, a strange scene appeared in front of Chu Yang and the others. At this moment, with Bu Liuqing and the Dharma Supreme as the dividing line, every star on Bu Liuqing's side emitted a dazzling sword light as they descended majestically from the sky. Tens of millions of stars shone at the same time, forming a true Milky Way in the sky. Bu Liuqing stood upright in the air. He raised his right hand and shouted, Milky Way / destroy. Following his hand gesture, the sword light emitted from the stars in the sky converged towards him at the same time. In an instant, they formed a seemingly real sword that was thousands of feet long. Then, it slashed down towards the Dharma Supreme. At the same time, the Dharma Supreme had finally completed his last gesture. With a faint smile, he pointed a finger. In the sky behind him, the boundless starlight turned into a dazzling torrent. Like Bu Liuqing, it transformed into a huge fist and met Bu Liuqing's huge sword head-on. Bu Liuqing, you are able to transform the power of the stars into sword energy. How can you not know that the power of the stars is also a kind of power of heaven and earth? The Dharma Supreme smiled. In front of my lawful celestial body, isn't it a joke that you are able to transform the power of the stars? Bu Liuqing said, whether it's a joke or not, you can talk after receiving it. Bu Liuqing snorted and waved his hand. The huge starlight sword and the starlight fist collided fiercely. With a loud bang, the sky was filled with dazzling starlight. Immediately, the sky was silent again. The moment the two forces collided, they suddenly condensed together. It had strangely condensed together. Under such circumstances, if the energy did not explode, no one would be able to leave. Bu Liuqing's sword fell from the sky, turning into a ray of light and landing in Bu Liuqing's hand. Bu Liuqing stared at the Dharma Supreme and said softly, the mercy sword was changed to Bu Liuqing in order to avenge my brother. The Dharma Supreme stood in the air, as if he was frozen. However, he said indifferently, you have the sword, I have the fist. A sword is just a sword, but a fist is power. Clenching the fist is wielding power. A powerful punch is power. A sword can only kill, but power can dominate. Bu Liuqing, you are no match for me. With a loud bang, the starlight that was frozen between the two of them finally exploded. In that instant, the sky was filled with colorful lights, as if fireworks were blooming at the same time. With a loud laugh, the Dharma Supreme flew out like a sharp sword, disappearing without a trace. Bu Liuqing, however, remained at the same spot, his face solemn. The Dharma Supreme had finally escaped from his control. Previously, he used his aura and 13,000 years of grief to turn into the power of revenge, gaining the upper hand in terms of morality and ethics. Then, on the basis of justice, he created a psychological weakness in the Dharma Supreme, gaining the upper hand and gaining the upper hand. At that time, if the Dharma Supreme retreated during the battle, his aura would be unstoppable. However, the Dharma Supreme gritted his teeth and held on, not retreating a single step. At this moment, taking advantage of this explosion, he finally retreated unscathed. Next, it was the Dharma Supreme's turn to attack. The Dharma Supreme is right. No matter how strong a sword is, it is still a loner. However, power can move the world. Therefore, on this point, he is more certain than I am. Bu Liuqing frowned and pondered. Suddenly, he laughed coldly. However, having power in one's hands, if it is not used properly, it is also a demon in one's heart. If it was Dongfang Badao, he could still be selfless. However, you are a despicable person who stole someone else's body. So what if you have power? The three people watching the battle heaved a sigh of relief. Chu Yang said solemnly, now, it has returned to its original state of being evenly matched. Wu Qianqian was about to speak when she suddenly felt the ground beneath her feet shaking. The three of them looked over. Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian gasped at the same time. They saw a huge mountain in the distance shake twice and suddenly fly up from the ground. This mountain was thousands of feet high and had a radius of a few miles. It flew straight up into the sky like a huge stick. Zi Xieching shouted, "Look carefully." With a stroke of her hand, with a swoosh, the mountain suddenly appeared in front of them. A faint black figure could be seen circling the mountain like a stream of light, hitting it with his palms. After he finished circling the mountain actually shrank by more than 20 times due to the pressure from his palms. Immediately after, he actually grabbed the bottom of the mountain with one hand and kicked with both feet. He laughed loudly. Bu Liuqing, take my stick. He really treated the mountain as a stick and smashed it down with his stick. Wu Qianqian rubbed her eyes hard. Her little mouth was wide open. There was actually such a thing in the world. At this moment, Chu Yang suddenly remembered Han Xiaoran's words. When the Dharma Supreme fought with Wu Jueqing, both of them had a huge mountain each. They just floated in the air and collided. Zi Xieching's eyes flashed. Suddenly, she grabbed Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian and extended her body. She flew to the mountain. As the Dharma Supreme waved his stick, the three of them felt the ground rushing towards them. The scenery on both sides became blurry shadows. Wu Qianqian was scared and wanted to close her eyes. Don't close your eyes. Chu Yang shouted, look. This is the most rare experience. Zi Xieching brought the two of them to the mountain to directly participate in the peak battle experience. No matter what would happen in the future, this experience, it would be etched in their hearts. It had an immeasurable significance to their cultivation. In the whole world, perhaps only Zi Xieching could do this, and only she was willing to do so much for them. At this moment, Chu Yang suddenly felt the huge expectations that Zi Xieching had for him. In front of them, a ray of sword light came towards them like rolling thunder. Bu Liuqing shouted, it's just a piece of stone, so what if you take it? The ray of sword light was actually 1,000 feet thick and a few thousand feet long. It came towards them like a thunderbolt. Boom! Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian only felt a sudden tremor. At this moment, their hearts were in so much pain that they almost vomited blood. I purposely let this in. It's 1/10,000th of the force of the tremor caused by their collision. Zi Xieching looked ahead and said lightly to the two of them. The two of them were shocked. 1/10,000th of the force. Immediately, another feeling of weightlessness came from beneath their feet. The Dharma Supreme had already raised this huge cudgel and smashed it down again. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous sounds of collision rang out. Chu Yang and the other two moved from the top of the cudgel to the bottom of the cudgel. Because the front half of the cudgel had already been cut off by Bu Liuqing like a carrot. Finally, this cudgel made from a huge mountain was thrown out by the Dharma Supreme. It was accompanied by the sound of thunder. Zi Xieching, Chu Yang and the other two were naturally thrown out. Opposite them, Bu Liuqing was still dressed in a long green robe, spotless. His back was straight. He was proud of the world, his face was lean and cold, his gaze was sharp and his sword was like snow. His green robe fluttered. With a kick in the air, he kicked this half of the cudgel to one side. Then, with a stretch of his body, thousands and thousands of Bu Liuqing appeared in the air. With a roar, it was as if 10,000 people were roaring at the same time. Then, the 10,000 figures rushed towards the Dharma Supreme who was charging towards them. The Dharma Supreme laughed loudly. With a sway of his body, thousands and thousands of figures also went up to meet them. The air started to crackle like firecrackers and exploded. It was just that these firecrackers were really too loud. The three of them flew lightly to the sky above the battle and watched intently. After a long time, Zi Sheqing sighed. These two are evenly matched. Neither can kill the other. Bu Liuqing has the advantage in the sharpness of his sword energy, pressing forward courageously. The Dharma Supreme has a profound cultivation level. Coincidentally, they offset each other's advantage. There is a huge force in the Dharma Supreme's body that has yet to be released. Once it is released, Bu Liuqing will definitely die. But this force is clashing with this body. Therefore, if it is released, the Dharma Supreme will also explode and die instantly. And it will be an outcome of mutual destruction. The two of you can stop watching the battle anymore and you too won't be able to comprehend it. Zi Sheqing analyzed indifferently. Suddenly, she turned and asked Chu Yang, "Do you want the Dharma Supreme to die?" Chu Yang smiled indifferently. "Not at the moment. If he dies now, the heavens will really be in a mess. And I don't have the ability to organize it now. Let him be defeated first." Chapter 1038. Zi Sheqing nodded. "I know that you want to help Bu Liuqing." At this moment, Bu Liuqing was rushing forward on his sword. Zi Sheqing smiled lightly. With a shake of her sleeves, a small hand as white as jade suddenly stretched out. Her palm was like a knife. Then, she sent out a palm strike from afar. When this palm strike was sent out, although Zi Sheqing looked casual, Chu Yang could clearly see a faint purple aura rising from Zi Sheqing's face. Chu Yang's heart skipped a beat. This palm strike, even for Zi Sheqing, would not be easy. To defeat the pinnacle of the generation with a single palm strike and not be detected by others, the difficulty of this was imaginable. A faint purple aura, along with Zi Sheqing's palm strike, turned into a ray of light and quickly chased behind Bu Liuqing, disappearing without a trace. In the blink of an eye. At this moment, the Dharma Supreme and Bu Liuqing were also crazily clashing with each other. The thousands of illusions of both of them collided with each other amidst a series of pop-pop-pop sounds, cancelling each other out. However, neither of them retreated. Bu Liuqing shouted loudly. With a thunderous force, he actually swung his long sword in a circle like a big knife. Holding the sword with both hands, he chopped down viciously. When this sword was sent out, the stars in the sky seemed to close their eyes in fear. Between heaven and earth, there was only darkness. Unparalleled dominance, it actually sucked all the air in the entire space, tilting towards the space from all direction. Good sword. The Dharma Supreme's face was cold as he sent out both his fist. With both fists, along with the restrained energy moving forward, everywhere it passed, everything, including space, was shattered. Far away. It was still a power that was completely different from Bu Liuqing's. If you retract, I will release. If you release, I will absorb. If you come in, I will go out. No matter what, we are sworn enemies. Both of them were calm and composed. At this moment, 4 pairs of eyes met across space, with the same coldness. Constant. Expressionless. But both of them knew that this strike would decide the outcome. Or both of them would suffer. Or one of them would live, or both of them would perish. At this point, both of them had figured out each other's strength. Both of them were evenly matched. If they continued to fight like this for a year, it would not be the same. Therefore, none of them were willing to drag this out any longer and went all out. End the battle quickly, the sooner the better. In the blink of an eye. 1 sword and 2 fist. They collided with each other. However, the two of them did not realize that there was an invisible and slender palm energy that was 1 step ahead of Bu Liuqing's long sword to meet the Dharma Supreme's right fist. Zi Sheqing was already standing in the air with her hands behind her back. She smiled faintly and murmured, I'll let you have power. A look of surprise flashed across the Dharma Supreme's eyes. Then, it turned into a look of shock, and finally, a trace of fear. What followed was utter shock. He only felt that there was a mysterious force in front of the long sword that suddenly collided with him. Bu Liuqing actually had a backup plan? He actually had such power? The Dharma Supreme did not have the time to think carefully. He was struggling to hold on, because, at this moment, the energy in his body is suppressed by this mysterious force, and he can't release it. However, his fists had already struck out. He couldn't take it back. Since they were about to come into contact with each other, there was no time to dodge. At this moment, the Dharma Supreme let out a crazed roar, desperately activating the energy in his body to counter the attack. At the same time, he desperately turned his body to one side. He only used his left fist to meet Bu Liuqing's sword. His right fist met the mysterious force with all his might. Boom! The Dharma Supreme's body trembled violently. His face flushed red and thin streaks of blood appeared from his 7 orifices. Then, Bu Liuqing's sword came towards him. It seemed to be at the same time, but the Dharma Supreme still managed to create a gap. It was this gap, but it was not at the same time. The Dharma Supreme hurriedly exhaled. His left fist retracted and released, colliding violently with Bu Liuqing's sword. Poof! Both the Dharma Supreme and Bu Liuqing's bodies trembled violently at the same time. However, Bu Liuqing leaned back and stood steadily. However, the Dharma Supreme's face turned purplish red. His body trembled twice and finally, he could not hold it in any longer and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. At the same time, he staggered backward. With every step backward, his body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. With another step backward, his long hair fluttered in the wind. He spat out another mouthful of blood and took another step backward before he finally stood still in the air. His expression was still indifferent and his gaze was still calm. He raised his head and looked at Bu Liuqing. The force of the collision then surged wildly and spread in all directions. On the ground, all of the mountains, rivers, and trees within several hundred kilometers were lifted off the ground and scattered wildly in all directions. Below, the dense mountains and rivers had suddenly become a flat plain that stretched as far as the eye could see. This was the first time that Chu Yang had seen such a real tsunami in a place filled with mountains and rivers. Yes, a tsunami. No matter which direction it was from, as long as one looked at it, it was a tsunami. It was definitely not an illusion. It was just that it was a tsunami made of rocks and sand. The sound of the tsunami finally subsided. Only a plain was left. In the future, this huge plain would be known as the Supreme Martial Artist Plain, because it was accidentally formed during a battle between 2 high-level supreme martial artists. Bu Liuqing stood in the air, dressed in green and holding a long sword, looking coldly at the Dharma Supreme opposite him. Bu Liuqing, I have underestimated you. The Dharma Supreme stretched out a hand and gently wiped away the remaining blood at the corner of his mouth. He smiled faintly and said, I did not expect you to have already surpassed the supreme grade and reached the stage of collapsing the sky and breaking the void. However, you have not left until now and would rather suffer the pain of the heavenly punishment that comes once every few hundred years just to seek revenge on me. Bu Liuqing was about to give chase but was startled by the Dharma Supreme's reaction. He did not expect the Dharma Supreme to be defeated so quickly. This seemed a little ridiculous. He should not have been defeated so quickly. Upon hearing the Dharma Supreme's words, he was startled again. This sentence was simply incomprehensible. Bu Liuqing knew his own cultivation. Now, he was only half a step away from that mysterious realm, but he had not stepped into it. But why did the Dharma Supreme say that he had already surpassed it? Was it an illusion? But how could someone like the Dharma Supreme have an illusion? Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian looked at each other in shock. The Dharma Supreme and Bu Liuqing, who were involved in Zi Sheqing's secret attack, did not even realize it. Bu Liuqing thought that he had the upper hand and the Dharma Supreme similarly thought that Bu Liuqing had defeated him with his real cultivation. Bu Liuqing said indifferently, It is not that you have overestimated me, but that you have overestimated yourself. I have not surpassed that step. He looked coldly at the Dharma Supreme and said, "Because you have a guilty conscience." The Dharma Supreme smiled and shook his head. "Brother Bu, you are not one of the tribulations. You do not know the hatred in my heart. For that hatred, I will not feel guilty about anything I do." He raised his head and sighed deeply. "Today, I have been defeated and injured. This feeling is very comfortable and I miss it very much. Back then, I was also a hot-blooded person, Moreover, I am also easily sentimental." The Dharma Supreme looked at Bu Liuqing and smiled. "Brother Bu, although I am injured, if I want to leave, even if you and Ning Tianya are here, you will not be able to stop me. You should know this in your heart, right?" Bu Liuqing was silent for a moment before he said, "Indeed, we will not be able to stop you. At this level of cultivation, unless one fought to the death and did not try to escape, there was a possibility of dying in battle. But if he really wanted to leave, as the Dharma Supreme said, even if Ning Tianya and Ning Tianya joined forces, they would not be able to stop him. If that is the case, would Brother Bu be interested in listening to a short story of mine?" The Dharma Supreme smiled indifferently, his eyes revealing a trace of distance. "Then, I will also solve your doubts." Bu Liuqing smiled coldly and said, "I am all ears." The Dharma Supreme smiled faintly and said, "I shall start from when I was injured. This story is really a long time ago. It has been bottled up in my heart for tens of thousands of years. Brother Bu, you want to kill me to avenge your brother. However, do you know why I, a departed soul who should have died long ago, is still here?" Bu Liuqing did not speak. The Dharma Supreme laughed sadly. "You want to avenge your brother. I also want to avenge my brother. Brother Bu, the two of us are really in the same boat." After he finished speaking, he lowered his eyes, as if he was deep in thought, reminiscing and reminiscing. At this moment, the lines on the face of the Dharma Supreme, who was like a demon king, actually softened. "Back then, every time I was injured, there would always be a few brothers accompanying me. This one was protecting me, this one was treating me, this one was comforting me. At that time, the 10 of us brothers were of one heart. Individually, we accompanied our boss, the Tribulation Swordmaster, and fought with our lives on the line. When we fought our way from the lower 3 heavens to the upper 3 heavens, it was the 4 of us. But when we fought our way up from the lower 3 heavens to the upper 3 heavens, it became 7 of us. When we reached the upper 3 heavens, it became 10 of us." Fresh blood flowed from the corner of the Dharma Supreme's mouth again. He wiped it away and smiled indifferently. Just like chatting with an old friend, he talked tirelessly. In fact, Bu Liuqing could totally feel that the Dharma Supreme did not even circulate his energy to heal his injuries during this period of time. In fact, he even allowed his injuries to worsen. "You are really one of the tribulations." Bu Liuqing let out a long sigh. He knew that the Dharma Supreme was talking about the secrets of the Tribulation Sword Master. Beside him, Chu Yang was instantly energized and became fully focused. The Sword Spirit had never mentioned this before. The divine soul of the first Tribulation Sword Master was also very vague. But now, the Dharma Supreme in front of him was the person involved. Chu Yang could faintly feel that this time, he was about to unravel the biggest doubt in his heart. And also the biggest secret of the Tribulation Sword Master for the past 100,000 years. Chapter 1039. The Dharma Supreme smiled faintly and said indifferently, with a sense of nostalgia and an inexplicable melancholy. Back then, from the very beginning, Big Brother gave us countless elixirs and elixirs. Almost every few days, everyone's cultivation would soar. Big Brother said that we would rule the heavens together. We would complete our ultimate dream together. Zi Xieching heard this and couldn't help but sigh. She scolded, "This is simply nonsense. Using elixirs to form it, isn't this purely harming people?" Chu Yang agreed. To be able to become one of the tribulations, which one of them wasn't a peerless genius? Using elixirs was equivalent to directly blocking the path of these people to collapse the heavens and break the void. However, if they didn't consider their ultimate future from the beginning and only wanted to use them to mend the heavens, doing this could be considered a way. It was just that it was really too cold and heartless. The Dharma Supreme continued to speak. We brothers gave up everything for each other, including our lives. We could let the other party take it easily. Big Brother didn't say anything to us. At that time, we felt that even the gods couldn't make us brothers bow down and retreat in defeat. We advanced step by step, killing revered martial artists, defeating martial kings, killing martial emperors, defeating martial emperors, killing martial saints and battling supreme martial artist. Along the way, we rose to fame. When we reached the upper three heavens, we advanced step by step, fighting one clan after another, from the weak to the strong. I can't even remember how many times we went through life and death, how many times we circled the gates of hell. Ha ha. Finally, all 10 of us reached the level of supreme martial artist. The big clans were unreasonable and were finally eliminated by us. Ha ha, it was much easier than the current tribulations Swordmaster. In the entire heavens, there weren't many supreme martial artists and above. As for 8th grade, there wasn't even a single one. Ha ha. The Dharma Supreme led the crowd to help. At that time, we were very tired every day, but we were very happy every day. We gathered together every day, discussing excitedly and paying attention to each other's changes with concern. When our brothers were injured, we would curse together. When our brothers were victorious, we would celebrate together. The iron and blood martial world was all-powerful. We could come and go as we pleased. We could kill as we pleased, and we could do whatever we wanted. Those days were really a period of time. If time stopped at that moment, even if we were to be in that chaotic battlefield forever, it would be the greatest happiness. However, although we were happy then, we were also very tired. Everyone wanted to level the heavens as soon as possible and complete everyone's ultimate goal, 10 brothers standing at the peak of the world. Then, everyone would live their lives peacefully and peacefully. So we destroyed the big clans. After that, the 10 brothers formed their own clans and recruited heavenly layer experts. The entire heavenly layer was finally peaceful. Everyone felt that we could finally enjoy the world of this world of the world. When Big Brother called Big Brother, Big Brother called Big Brother Big Brother. Of course, Big Brother had to go. So, everyone went there excitedly. The Dharma Supreme said indifferently, as if he was talking about someone else's story. His voice was very calm. However, this calmness contained an indescribable feeling. At this point, although he didn't deliberately emphasize his tone, Chu Yang also felt as if a chilly wind was blowing at the back of his head. It was chilly. Chu Yang thought to himself, looks like something must have happened during this drinking session. That day, after we went, Big Brother said that our cultivation was too high. Damn it, we can't even get drunk now. All of us would subconsciously circulate our energy and the effects of the alcohol would be gone. It's boring. So we might as well seal our cultivation and get drunk together. It's boring if we don't get drunk, so everyone cheered. The heavens are all ours, what danger can there be? It's just sealing our cultivation, we've done it many times before. It's more fun to drink like this. Ha ha. The Dharma Supreme suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. That drinking session went on for 3 days and 3 nights. Everyone was drunk. When I woke up, I realized that I couldn't move. My cultivation as a 7th grade supreme martial artist couldn't be used at all. It was as if I was dead. I tried hard to turn my head and realized that my brothers were all lying down, but their eyes were all dazed. No one knew what had happened. At this time, Big Brother walked in and said with a smile, "Brothers, did you have a good time drinking this session?" Everyone was relieved at once. Big Brother came and saw that everything was fine. He even joked with us. So everyone laughed. Everyone laughed. I was laughing too, ha ha. When Big Brother said that, I remember that Big Brother even said, "Big Brother, we had a good time drinking this wine. Next time, let's drink like this again." But why can't I stand up? Could I have been drugged? Ha ha. I was just joking, everyone knew that. But everyone still reprimanded me in unison, thinking that he had gone overboard. Yes, it's all thanks to Big Brother that we can be where we are today. How can we doubt Big Brother? Even if it was a joke, it shouldn't have happened. Even if we had such thoughts, we shouldn't have done that. Hee hee. The Dharma Supreme laughed coldly twice. When the Dharma Supreme said the sentence shouldn't have happened, even with Bu Liuqing's cultivation and willpower, he couldn't help but shudder. There was a strong sense of grief, self-deprecation, anger, disbelief, the humiliation of being deceived, that strong sense of unwillingness. All these emotions were intertwined together. Anyone who heard this sentence would feel their hair stand on end. Zi Xieching called out to Chu Yang twice, but Chu Yang didn't respond at all. Chu Yang's ears perked up as he listened to the Dharma Supreme's words. He was completely focused and didn't get distracted at all. He didn't hear Zi Xieching's call at all. His whole mind was already immersed in this story. This was the first time Chu Yang heard the story of the Tribulation Swordmaster and his brothers. Hearing the Dharma Supreme's words, imagining the unreserved trust between brothers, absolute loyalty and respect for Big Brother, Chu Yang was touched and suddenly thought of his own brothers. My brothers are definitely not inferior to all of you. My brothers also treat me the same, but I'm different from all of you. I won't treat my brothers that way. At that time, Big Brother said that I was right. All of you can't move now because I had drugged you. I had drugged you with soul-poisoning powder. The Dharma Supreme laughed lightly and shook his head. Silence fell. Sigh. Soul-poisoning powder. Even though Bu Liuqing and the Dharma Supreme were archenemies now, he couldn't help but sigh, not knowing what to say. Soul-poisoning powder was a type of medicine that was specially used against supreme martial artists. It was useless against ordinary people. When a person reached supreme martial artist level and above, a second primordial spirit would be formed. All of the inner energy cultivation was used to support the growth of this second primordial spirit. Once the second primordial spirit grew up, it would be the time to collapse the sky and shatter the void. And soul-poisoning powder was used to immobilize the second primordial spirit. It was an extremely vicious medicine. Once the second primordial spirit was immobilized, a supreme martial artist would be at the mercy of anyone. Even a 3-year-old child could kill him as long as he had a knife in his hand. Bu Liuqing didn't expect that the Master of Tribulation's sword would actually use soul-poisoning powder on his brothers. Sigh. The Dharma Supreme also let out a long sigh and said bitterly, Brother Bu, perhaps tomorrow we will still be mortal enemies, but what I said today is all true. The situation back then is still vivid in my mind. Every word that was said has been repeated hundreds of thousands of times in my ears. Everyone's tone, everyone's expression, even if I were to live for another 1,000,000 years, I will definitely not forget it. He looked at the starry sky in a daze and said, It's always lonely at the top. This sentence really makes sense. All these years, I wanted to find someone to talk to, but I couldn't find anyone. Bu Liuqing nodded deeply and said, I believe you. The Dharma Supreme laughed and continued, when Big Brother said that, all of us were stunned. Our first reaction was that Big Brother was joking. Second brother said, Big Brother, what are you playing at? Quickly get us to stand up. We will give you a good beating. Big Brother shook his head and said, I have a few words, a few things that I want to talk to you guys about today. I had no choice but to do this. I wanted to let you guys listen to me quietly. Therefore, all of us said, what can't you just sit up and touch the bottom of the wine cup? You even had to restrain us. Big Brother, you are too much. But until then, all of us knew that there was absolutely nothing going on. Big Brother would definitely not harm us. Even Diwu Chochang, who was the most resourceful among us, said, I believe the things that Big Brother says will make us move. The Dharma Supreme laughed. Diwu Chochang. Hearing this name, Bu Liuqing was finally shocked and said, You are one of the tribulations from 30,000 years ago. The Dharma Supreme ignored him and continued, Big Brother said, Everyone knows that I am the Master of Tribulation's sword, and everyone knows that the mission of the Master of Tribulation's sword is to reform the heavens. However, there is one thing that all of you don't know. The Master of Tribulation's sword has another mission, which is to use the power of millions of dead souls to mend the heavens for 10,000 years, to ensure that the heavens will not collapse in 10,000 years. At that time, everyone was very excited and very moved, saying, "This is a good thing, the merit is in the present, the benefits are in the future, for the sake of happiness for thousands of years to come. How can we brothers be willing to fall behind others? Although all of us have killed countless people, all of us have a clear conscience. We are worthy of the world." Big Brother said. Big Brother said. The Dharma Supreme's voice trembled slightly and then returned to normal. He said, Big Brother said, "But this mission can only be completed by myself, and I need all of your help." Chapter 1040. At this point, the Dharma Supreme should have paused for a moment, but he continued without hesitation. When Big Brother said this, the brothers immediately felt that something was amiss. All of them were dumbfounded. Diwu Cho-chang laughed dryly and said, "Big Brother, don't tell me you want to kill us." Big Brother said that I don't want to kill you. But I need your souls. Only your souls can mend the crack in the heavens. Diwu Cho-chang was silent for a moment. Then, he said, "If we mend the heavens, what about you, Big Brother?" Big Brother said, "I've made up for the heavens, and the power of virtue I've gained is enough for me to break through to the level where I can collapse the sky and break the void. At that time, I'll naturally leave this world and enter another world to cultivate, or to work hard and start a new life. I heard that it is a paradise where you can have anything you want. Only those who have the merit to mend the heavens can enter." Big Brother said that your efforts are worth it. At this point, the Dharma Supreme finally fell silent. His throat trembled violently as he laughed bitterly. His laughter was hoarse. Paradise? Zi Sheqing sent a telepathic message to Chu Yang, puzzled. Chu Yang shook his head slowly. This was too strange. Chu Yang knew very well that there was no such thing as a paradise. Could it be that this tribulation's sword master was deceived? But, who could deceive this tribulation's sword master? Could it be the sword spirit? Chu Yang was deep in thought. His consciousness sank into the tribulation's space. The sword spirit was still cultivating in seclusion. It could be seen that his body was becoming more and more solid. Chu Yang was puzzled. If there was such a thing, then the sword spirit would definitely deceive him. But until now, the sword spirit had not mentioned it. Outside, the Dharma Supreme's hoarse voice sounded. His voice was still indifferent, but there was a hint of reluctance in it. At this time, the old fool asked, "Big Brother, when you go to the new world, can I still follow you?" I can't bear to leave you. Ha ha, ha ha, ha 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 ha. At this point, the Dharma Supreme suddenly laughed maniacally. He laughed so hard that he bent over and tears rolled down his cheeks. He had always been calm and composed. Even when he was narrating such a tragic story, such a cruel betrayal, he was still so calm and composed that it was frightening. However, when he spoke of this little, he suddenly laughed crazily and bitterly. Wu Qianqian couldn't help but shed tears as she listened to his miserable laughter. At that point, I still can't believe that boss would harm him. I can't even bear to part with him and still want to follow him. I still want to. Ha ha ha. The Dharma Supreme laughed maniacally as blood spurted out from his mouth. He wiped it off with his hand and continued to laugh uncontrollably as tears streamed down his face. He laughed heartily, trembling as he looked at Bu Liuqing. He grinned, completely disregarding his image, and gritted his teeth as he said stubbornly, "You have brothers? I have one too. I have one too. I have more than you. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? Ha ha ha. How can I not believe it?" Bu Liuqing sighed. The feelings of tribulation have always moved the heavens and the earth. Part of the strength of the tribulation sword's master in mending the heavens is this feeling of not giving up even in life and death. The Dharma Supreme laughed out loud. He wiped his tears and laughed heartily. At that time, all the brothers didn't say anything. Only Boss said, "Little, I'm afraid I can't bring you along." Little was very disappointed and said, "Why?" Boss said, "Because after I use your soul to mend the heavens, you will die. But I'm still alive, so I can't bring you along." At that time, Little was very disappointed. Yes, you didn't hear wrongly. He was very disappointed. He wasn't afraid, he was just disappointed. He said, "Boss, I can't bear to part with all of you." Boss said, "You don't have to be reluctant, because all of you will die together." At this point, the Dharma Supreme finally stopped. He was panting heavily, and beads of perspiration were slowly seeping out from his smooth forehead. When he was fighting with Bu Liuqing earlier, the sky was spinning and the earth was spinning, but he didn't sweat or pant heavily. However, at this moment, he was panting heavily just by telling a story. We all fell silent. Then, Diwu Chochang asked, "Boss, when did you find out about this?" When this question came out, everyone's eyes lit up. "Time is too important." Boss said, "From the moment I obtained the first fragment of the Sword of Calamity, I already knew." When he said this, all the brothers suddenly stopped talking. They were all panting heavily, very, very heavily. After pausing for a long time, second brother asked a question. At that time, I remember very clearly that second brother seemed to have used all his strength to ask that question. He even stuttered a little and his voice was very trembling. He asked, "So, all these years, you've been lying to us? You brought the brothers to fight together, brought us up to the heavens, just so you could use our souls to mend the heavens. Then, you would collect the power of merit from the mend of the heavens and go to another paradise. All this time, you have been lying to us, using us." When second brother said this, all the brothers pricked up their ears. Although everyone already knew that this was a foregone conclusion, they still wanted to hear Boss say no. Because then, even if we died, we wouldn't be so sad. Boss sighed and said, "I also know that I have let all of you down, but I really want to go to that world. The temptation to me is too great. It has been hard on all of you to follow me for so many years, to serve me, to risk your lives for me, to do everything for me. But I have been lying to all of you, using all of you. I also feel very guilty in my heart. Really, I feel that I have let all of you down." When he said this, everyone was stunned. Then, at that time, I seemed to have heard the sound of my heart breaking very clearly. I cried. Before that, I only had joy, only satisfaction, and happiness. I had never cried before, but that day, after hearing this sentence, I cried. I sobbed. Boss continued to say emotionally, "Second brother, for me, when the steel knife came slashing at you, you threw yourself on my back and blocked the knife for me, almost dying. Third brother, for me, you once tested the poison with your own body and was poisoned to the point that you couldn't even speak for half a year. Fourth brother, for me, you didn't hesitate to use yourself as a hostage and allowed yourself to be captured without a fight. You were slashed 10 times on your body and your blood almost ran dry, just so that I could live, so that I could escape. Fifth brother, for me, you divined the fate of the heavens and your hair turned white overnight. Sixth brother, I know that you like Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao is your childhood sweetheart, I also know that. That day, when I pretended that I didn't know what happened between the two of you and pretended to be drunk and told you that I liked Xiao Xiao, you immediately backed out and went to the brothel the next day. You didn't hesitate to break Xiao Xiao's heart to fulfill my wish and let her marry me. This caused you to be unhappy all your life and never get married. Even when carrying on the family line, you took in a foster. Seventh brother, brothers, I will never forget all of your kindness to me. I am proud to have all of you. And touch. Really. Eldest brother recounted the merits of our brothers one by one. He spoke very emotionally and even shed tears. But at that time, I only felt a bone-chilling coldness in my heart. I don't know what they were thinking, but I think that since my heart had already turned cold, they may not be as warm as me. The Dharma Supreme grinned and laughed as if he was crying. If it were me, my heart would have turned cold too. Our brothers have done so many things for you, risking their lives for you, risking their lives for you, giving up everything for you, giving up everything for you. From an unknown person to the current master of the heavens, you actually want to kill them without a second word. Moreover, you want to use the lives of our brothers to exchange for a bright future for yourself. Is this fucker still human? Moreover, you even used despicable means to take advantage of our brothers' feelings to steal someone else's fiancé. Bu Liuqing couldn't believe that such a person actually existed in this world. There was only one thing that he was curious about. How could such a person become the master of the Calamity Sword? How could he have such hot-blooded men to help him? How could he have such sincere feelings for him? This was something that was completely unimaginable. Not only was Bu Liuqing puzzled, Zi Xieching and Wu Qianqian were also extremely puzzled. As the master of the Calamity Sword, Chu Yang was even more puzzled. This was too incomprehensible. To be able to do this, how deep must one's heart be to be able to deceive others for their entire life? Then eldest brother said, "Brothers, since you have already done so much for me, now I only ask of you to do one last thing for me. Give me your souls and fulfill my wish. We will be good brothers for all eternity." Fuck. Bu Liuqing couldn't help but curse. What kind of beast is this? The Dharma Supreme smiled faintly. When Bu Liuqing got angry, the Dharma Supreme regained his usual calmness and said, "Eldest brother said it once." Seeing that the brothers didn't say anything, he continued, "Actually, I didn't let all of you down. I brought all of you up to the heavens and helped you build big clans. Do you know? Your grandchildren will live and reproduce in the heavens for 10,000 years. 10,000 years. What kind of clan can have 10,000 years of glory? Although I don't claim credit for all these, if all of you didn't become a tribulation, where would such an opportunity come from? What's more, when have you ever lacked my help in every step you took? When did all of you lack my elixirs? My heavy elixirs, each of you ate more than one, right? My incomplete heavy elixirs, each of you should have at least 100 of them, right? Those elixirs that can increase your cultivation were all given by me. If not for me, how could all of you reach 7th grade supreme martial artist at such a young age? This is enough for all of you to be proud of. All I want now is for you to give up your souls. Why are all of you not saying anything for such a small matter? In the past, when all of you risked your lives for me, it was much more dangerous than now, but all of you were willing to do it. At that time, all of you could have died at any time. Why are all of you so unwilling now? Brothers, could it be that all of you have a change of heart because of glory and wealth? Chapter 1042. The Dharma Supreme's expression gradually returned to its initial calmness. Spiritual energy started to gather in his innate meridians. He slowly straightened his back, with his hands behind his back and his long hair fluttering in the wind. Gazing at the dawn that was about to break, he said indifferently, "Brother Bu, although you are my enemy, thank you for our talk tonight." Bu Liuqing smiled bitterly. "Actually, you should have talked to Wu Jueqing." The Dharma Supreme smiled and shook his head lightly. "Sad people can't talk to sad people. I also have a desire to confide in him and so does he. When the two of us are together, no matter how you listen to it, it's just the same story. When you know about yourself, you also know about him. What else is there to talk about?" He laughed and took a step forward. His figure was still in front of him, but his real body was already a few thousand feet away. "Brother Bu, I'll wait for you to come and find me anytime for a battle to the death. If you don't come and find me, I'll find you after I recover." Bu Liuqing didn't give chase. He let out a long sigh and stomped his feet. Then, he suddenly flew up and disappeared without a trace. With a swoosh, 3 people appeared at the place where Bu Liuqing and the Dharma Supreme were talking. Chu Yang, Zi Xieching, and Wu Qianqian. Chu Yang frowned and let out a long sigh. "So, this is the Tribulation Sword Master." Zi Xieching also said meaningfully, "So, this is the Tribulation Sword Master." She turned and looked at Chu Yang. "Chu Yang, what did you think of?" Chu Yang took a deep breath and smiled indifferently. "Let's wait and see." Zi Xieching laughed and said, "But, I may not be able to see it." Chu Yang said indifferently, "You will see it in the future. It's useless to say anything now. I promise that I won't treat my brothers like this. Do you believe me? No. For 10,000 years, the 8 generations of Tribulation Sword Masters have been like this. How can you, Chu Yang, be an exception? But I, Chu Yang, must be an exception. I must be an exception. As someone who has died once, I'd rather die than do such despicable, shameless, and dirty things." Zi Xieching smiled meaningfully. Wu Qianqian opened her eyes and looked at the two in confusion. She didn't understand what they were talking about. Let's go. Let's go back. Zi Sheqing smiled faintly and was about to grab the two of them and fly back. At this moment, the sky suddenly brightened. The sky was about to brighten. However, Zi Sheqing's hand, which was about to grab the two of them, suddenly loosened. She looked at the sky with a solemn expression. Chu Yang and Wu Qian couldn't help but look up. At the edge of the sky, where the morning sun rose, a purple cloud was moving rapidly. In almost an instant, it was above their heads. Chu Yang was astonished. He had never seen a cloud that could fly so fast. In the blink of an eye, dark clouds suddenly gathered overhead, followed by lightning and thunder. The light that had just appeared on the horizon was immediately suppressed. The sound of thunder was like a dull drumbeat, constantly beating in the sky above their heads. The three of them felt oppressed and heavy in their hearts at the same time, as if something bad was going to happen. The clouds were getting lower and lower. The pressure was getting heavier and heavier. Zi Sheqing's expression became more and more solemn. Chu Yang muttered, "What is this? Is this the power of heaven?" Zi Sheqing bit her lips and silently looked at the clouds that were getting lower and lower, as if they had condensed into a solid form. Suddenly, she struck Wu Qian's neck with her palm. Wu Qian fainted without making a sound. "What are you doing?" Chu Yang was shocked. Zi Sheqing looked at Chu Yang with a complicated expression and said softly, "They are here to find me. The existence of my Baidu Tiebar Qihang has affected the balance of the heavens. And I used the heavenly sun-purple cloud in my attack just now. I was discovered. This matter cannot be known to Qian." Chu Yang was shocked and tongue-tied. "Then what should we do?" Zi Sheqing took a breath and said, "For experts like us, no matter which plane we are in, we can't destroy the balance of the plane. If we just stay there, there won't be any problems. But once we reveal enough power to destroy the balance, we will be punished. If I were a native, it would be easier, but I didn't go. And Bu Liuqing and the Dharma Supreme are the top figures of this heavens. So, when I intervened in their battle, it became such a situation." Chu Yang was shocked. "Then why didn't you say so earlier? Since you already knew, why did you still intervene?" Zi Sheqing's expression was a little complicated. She said, "I have to leave sooner or later. Now, it's just a little earlier than expected. The only difference is that I can leave on my own, or I can be caught by someone." Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. "Caught?" "Yes. Usually, when there is such a situation, you will be caught and not be put in a spot. It's just that you are not allowed to stay here any longer." Zi Sheqing looked deeply at Chu Yang and said softly, "Chu Yang, you must take care. You must take care. What if I don't let you go?" Chu Yang asked in a low voice. Zi Sheqing's delicate body trembled and she smiled bitterly. "You won't let me go? This is heaven's authority." Chu Yang sneered. "In my life, I have always been going against heaven. Heaven's authority? So what if I offend it one more time?" Zi Sheqing sighed in her heart. How could she not know that she would be caught if she revealed her true strength today? But she didn't dare to stay any longer, especially beside Chu Yang. Zi Sheqing had never spent so much time with a young man in her life. And she had never appreciated and loved any other young man as much as she did Chu Yang. Since the Black Blood Forest, she took pleasure in torturing Chu Yang. Although she was also collecting the Tao state energy, she also wanted to see how far this stubborn young man could go. But she didn't expect that no matter what, as long as it was a battle, Chu Yang would be full of energy. No matter how cruel it was, no matter how many times he failed, Chu Yang's fighting spirit would only be higher and would never diminish. The more he was defeated, the braver he became. Along the way, Zi Sheqing also continuously squeezed Chu Yang's bottom line. She even thought, "When I force out your last bit of potential, can you still be so stubborn?" But all the way to Tianji City, even though Chu Yang was exhausted and battered every day, he had never once said a single word of apology. The most terrible thing was that even when he said soft words, he was actually teasing her. Zi Sheqing became more and more unconvinced and her attacks became more and more ruthless. Chu Yang's resistance also increased and became more and more tenacious. Until Chu Yang reached Tianji City, the two of them fought more frequently. Zi Xiecheng couldn't squeeze out all of Chu Yang's potential. Until that time when Chu Yang was breaking through, Zi Xiecheng had no choice but to use the cruelest method to help him. Zi Xiecheng absolutely believed that even a supreme martial artist wouldn't be able to withstand such a cruel punishment. But Chu Yang came up with his own idea and thought of a way to torture her. But he managed to withstand it and even broke through. At that moment, Zi Xiecheng almost shed tears. It was at that time that Zi Xiecheng felt that her state of mind had changed. In the past, she was a loner. Other than wanting to repay a debt of gratitude and wanting to see her benefactor and say thank you, she never had any other concerns. His heart was like flowing water that rose and fell with the flow of the water. His will was like the white clouds that rolled freely, free and unrestrained. But from that day onwards, her heart seemed to have an additional concern. And this concern was Chu Yang. She even had a thought, I don't want Chu Yang to go through such pain again. That was why she helped Chu Yang do this and that. She even brought Chu Yang out today to let him watch the supreme martial artist peak battle to pave the way for his future and to reduce his bottleneck. But after that period of time, Zi Xiecheng felt that she couldn't let go. Sometimes, she would even dream about it. At this moment, Zi Xiecheng finally felt that something was wrong. That was why she suddenly decided to expose her strength today and wanted to leave this place. He was going to leave anyway. It didn't matter if he left sooner or later. Since that was the case, it was better to do it sooner rather than later. Although she hadn't replenished her Tao state energy, what she had now was enough for her to withstand the heavenly wrath once and then enter the great Tao void to replenish her Tao state energy. If she continued to stay, she was afraid that she would feel even more uncomfortable. If she wanted to stay but couldn't bear to leave after replenishing her Tao state energy, that would be truly uncomfortable. That was why she didn't hesitate to attract the heavenly wrath's punishment to save herself from this emotional whirlpool. Although it would be very painful, Zi Xiecheng really didn't want to let herself be immersed in this emotional whirlpool. But just now, Zi Xiecheng heard Chu Yang say, "What if I don't let you go?" When he heard this, his heart suddenly felt sour, but it also felt sweet. For a moment, she actually had mixed feelings. But she immediately controlled herself and didn't say anything. "You will be punished for going against the heavens," Zi Xiecheng said softly. She gently reached out her hand and touched Chu Yang's face. She said softly, "After I leave, don't miss me. Live well and live your life well." Chu Yang stared at her and said irritably, "Didn't you hear? I mean, what if I don't let you go? What can I do to make you stay?" He actually started to question her. If it was in normal times, Zi Xiecheng would usually give him a slap and then kick him on his butt to make him fly in the air again. But now, Zi Xiecheng felt a wave of satisfaction in her heart. She actually felt a little sweet towards this rough reprimand. She bit her lips and her eyes were filled with a satisfied smile. She said softly, "There's no other way." Chu Yang was stunned. A thunderclap resounded in the sky. A majestic sound of thunder rolled over. It seemed to be coming from afar. It gradually resounded above their heads, deafening their ears. At the same time, a huge golden hand suddenly stretched out from the clouds in the sky. It carried a majestic aura that could not be defied as it violently grabbed down. A voice said indifferently in the sky, "How dare you, lowly servant? How dare you break the balance of space? Quickly follow me back to be interrogated." Zi Xiecheng's face turned pale and her lips trembled. Then, she looked deeply at Chu Yang's face and suddenly grabbed Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian and threw them far away. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.